How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. On today's show, we have Joe, who is going to be our tax CPA of the day. That's going to be giving us some information about how to improve our taxes and how to make better decisions and why it is so important to have you a CPA. Make sure that you don't make the wrong mistakes and get yourself audited and end up like NC Hammer losing your house. See, look at that. How you doing, Fireball?
No,
I know your
I
dad told you to
remember
watch it.
that. I remember MC Hammer.
Yeah, they took
Then
everything.
he became a preacher after he gave away all his money.
Well, that's because representing yourself as a church is ideally a tax-free entity or at least a limited
Yes,
taxable
sir.
entity. So if you're smart about it, I know you could tell me some of the ins and outs about that, but if you have a nonprofit entity that you control, you can actually, if you got two separate entities, one can donate to the other one because there are no laws that says that you can't be on a board of a nonprofit, and you can also be the CEO of a company, but you cannot have a nonprofit running for selfish purposes. It is supposed to be for the sake of the benefit of somebody else. So, but if you can donate to something that you can knock out for yourself and get you some tax write-offs and then do that charitable action. This is why I don't like the way MC Hammer ran out with the church thing. Now you're getting praise for doing positive actions for somebody else, which is going to get you more money. And you're not actually doing it for somebody because they need it. You're doing it because you're going to get the fame for it. And when you're doing things in the name of Jesus, you're not supposed to be doing it for fame. You're supposed to be doing it for somebody else's less fortunate behavior. See what I'm saying?
I
So
hear you. I hear you loud and clear.
I've got one, so I know.
Matters. That definitely matters, man.
So Joe, you were about to tell me, and I'm sorry I had to cut you off
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that one. You were about to tell me about your life story about taxes. So I wanted everybody to hear it.
People love hearing about my background. Okay. Um, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in the city housing projects. They call it NYCHA, New York City Housing.
Yeah.
And, it was always a struggle. Everybody wanted to get out of the projects. And I wanted to do tax returns. So there was a local H&R Block office. And I saw in the newspaper they were giving a course. And I can't remember if it was free or we didn't have money anyway, so it couldn't cost that much. And I got lucky and got a job near my house because I didn't have any transportation. So I was able to just walk over to the office.
Right.
And so when I went through school, when we took a tax course, I aced that course like crazy because it was all this theory, but I filled out the tax returns and I just put everything on the returns and I loved it. And I became a CPA and started working for people. The problem was I moved to the South. First, I moved to Buffalo, New York, and they didn't like people from New York City. And they said we had attitudes. And then I moved down to Texas, and they hated Yankees. We were coming down to Texas to take over their territory. So after getting fired, I said, why don't I just go out on my own? And that was 1980. The Apple II computer first came out. I bought an Apple II with the little floppy disks and a bookkeeping package. They didn't even have regular color monitors. Everything was the green monitor with the lines, but it printed out some really nice general ledgers, income statements, balance sheets. And so I went into business doing bookkeeping and taxes totally on my own from scratch, no backup from anybody. And it just grew from that. And about 5 years later, 85, I saw the IRS was going after people. And I said, this is crazy. All people have to do is file and pay their taxes. What's so hard about that? But then I learned there's a lot of hatred on both sides. A lot of taxpayers don't like the IRS taking advantage of them and giving breaks to other people. And the IRS doesn't like when people send in false returns and try to cheat them. And so I saw myself as a go-between to bring both sides together. And of course, they know I'm always going to do what's in the best interest of my client, help them save the most money. So I started doing IRS representation, helping people, and I bumped heads a lot, being from growing up in New York City and dealing with IRS employees in the South. I'll spare you all of those
Yeah, I know about those.
stories because I almost like they almost stopped me from doing business, but I went way higher up in the chain and got permission to stay. Um, it's been interesting. I still have my practice, and I've learned how.
But by the way, ladies and gentlemen, he has a pretty big practice because I called the office earlier and talked to a couple of his employees, and they had a lot to tell me. He wasn't in the office, but they told me he's got a lot going on.
There's only 3 of us.
He got a lot going on. They answered the phone and they were taking calls.
Stephanie's great. Stephanie's worked for me like 16, 17 years. She runs the firm. It's like I work for her.
I know how it is. Hey, when you got somebody that's really good at what they do, they organize your life. And even though you're paying their salary, they tell you what to do and where to be at. And that's one of the things I tell people in a lot of the times is that the respect from authority doesn't necessarily mean that authority must tell you what to do all the times. The respect comes from having the capabilities of leading your authority in the right place, because Steve Jobs said that you don't tell them how to get to where they need to go. You tell them where you want to be at. You let them show you how to get there. And that requires leaders to lead from the rear, not drag the team in a specific direction.
I was with you 100% till you mentioned Steve Jobs. So.
Hey, he said it. So I just got to point the fact that he said it. I'm not saying that Steve Jobs is a great person.
I'm one that holds grudges.
Me too.
If I know something about you that's a weakness of character, I'm going to hold that over your head as far as my attitude toward you.
He does not have the type of character that I would support, but he is the kind of individual that said something that I cannot take credit for. So since
now you made that distinction, I'm with you.
He said that, and that made sense to me.
Absolutely. It took me many years because she put her foot down and for the longest time. And really, she wanted it to be an equal relationship, not me. She didn't want some guy, whatever. Probably a woman too. She's real tough, Stephanie. She didn't want somebody telling her what to do. She's got a son she raised on her own.
They learn after a while that cooperation requires to not only give instructions but to follow instructions. But they learn after once they come to realize that men aren't here to rule them, that they're here to partner with them. That's when they stop being so aggressive. So up until they realize that they've got to do what they're told until they know what to do, and then they can do what they want because they're doing what you want them to do. So you don't got to tell them anything anymore. That's when they're able to run the ship, because a captain can't leave the ship to the first mate until the captain.
Except when they do what they want to do because they believe that that's the better thing to do.
And look,
the world ain't as ideal as you think.
Thursday through Sunday, and you're welcome to come back because Thursday through Sunday I have the podcast where we're talking about relationship situations, gender inequality, and why it is such a problem that men have this issue where women do not always cooperate with men, even when women have men that put the women's interests before the man, and the man is just asking for the same. So I talk about this on the show a lot of the times.
Well, I got my
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday we talk about money. Yeah, you got years on me because I'm 40. You got years on me. You know what's going on.
Through the generations, instead of letting relationships like develop and mold on their own, people started having formulas for it.
It turned out to be a formula. They
want to know. There's the human part of it. They want to know, how many people agree and how many people support it, and let's get the statistics.
Yep.
I'm
I've got a
sorry.
woman right now that I got to give her the statistics on divorce rate because I told a woman that a man never benefits from a divorce, that no man has ever become successful because he divorced a woman. No man gets with a woman to become financially successful because women don't inherently get men that are broke. Women get money, men that have more money than her, more resources than her. So more often than not, when a divorce occurs, unless the woman became successful while she was with that man, she's going to leave the relationship with a lower income than him, and that divorce is going to require him to pay dividends to her and alimony. And the woman's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
show
but
me the statistics
sometimes,
on that."
so what, man? You talk so fast.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sorry.
Sometimes, so what, though?
Exactly. And that's what I told her. I said, it doesn't matter. But when I told her, I said,
Right.
when you're making a partner, you're trying to build with somebody, and that's what we were talking about investing. We were talking about stocks. We were talking about taxes. That's why you're on the show. We were talking about
Okay.
how trust can be beneficial for your overall network and developing generational wealth. That's where taxes comes in. That's where you also come in at. We were
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
investments, real estate, how
Yeah.
the tax write-offs from buying into real estate aid you in not having so much taxes to pay because of the debt versus the taxes owed, which is also where you come in at. And that's and somewhere in there, because I was talking about how instead of a man chasing a woman for sex and a woman chasing a man for his stuff, he should be looking for somebody that's willing to help him invest and make more money. She should be learning how to make
See,
more money
that's what I mean.
and be a
I'm
partner.
sorry. I believe in love, okay? I don't
Right.
care. The closeness of the relationship is more important. You start putting a list together. We learned about lists. When was it? In an old episode of Happy Days, I think
Yeah.
Fonzie had his list or something. Somebody had a list, and no, no, let it happen on its own.
Right.
Okay, because you learn, in old, let's say Indian culture, where they pick the brides for you. Okay,
Right.
if you look
Arranged
at
marriages.
yeah, if you look at the statistics on that, most people are surprised that there's a high correlation between arranged marriages working out and non-arranged marriages working out, because it's those differences that you got to learn to overcome. So when you start having these conditions, you're not overcoming the differences.
No, you're quitting early because the conditions are favorable to your expectations. And the fact is that the older generations, your generations and the generations before you, your marriages and relationships lasted 30, 40, 50 years because you guys
Yeah,
didn't quit on each other. You guys negotiated and worked
uh,
it out.
I'm
Where these days we're quitting
I'm
early.
married. I'm married 36 years now.
And you're the second or third person on the show that told me the same thing because L Beast was on here last week talking about how him and his wife was on married for over 40 years. She met him in a bar somewhere. They've been together longer than I've been alive,
Yeah, we
and
met.
they
We
worked together.
met in a bar too.
Social interaction. And the funny thing is that nowadays a relationship lasts between 6 months and 2 years and 9 months, and it's
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
It's dead. It's dead.
yeah.
And it's because they don't agree. And 70 to 90% of the
No,
relationships
they
are
don't.
done
They
because
don't
women leave.
learn to agree. I have kids. I have a son who's in his late 20s, and he was the first of the generation. I have older kids. I have a son that's at 40,
Right.
and my 20-something-year-old son, he's in that total me generation. He went to the dullest schools here, and there were like no fights. And I'm like, how do you go through school and go through high school, and there's no fights?
That's not possible. We have
And
fights
they
every
had a
day.
strict policy that if you were even involved, even if you weren't even the one that got hit, you were going to get in trouble.
Oh, spectators got in trouble too.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, if you were there, if you were caught in the fight, because you were supposed to immediately run and tell the teacher. That was
Oh
the
wow.
rule. If a kid hits you, run and tell the teacher.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
crowd control right there.
yeah. And my ex-wife, because my first two boys grew up with her, had these baby on board signs in the early 80s. Like, oh, I'm supposed to drive and be more careful just because you
Right?
got the baby in the car. My
That
point
baby
is,
on board sign was just
and
like
there's
fuzzy dice in the mirror.
no social skills. Look at Elon Musk jumping up on stage. He
Oh, that was
talks
inappropriate.
like a techie who's never had normal, regular relationships with
Well, but you
girls.
can I'm glad you said that. You could tell that Elon Musk doesn't have social relationships because look at the stuff that he creates. He's got a car that drives itself. He's got a
Yeah,
robot
I
that
love it.
replaces it. I love
I
it,
love it.
but the mindset behind that, instead of me getting somebody to drive me because I don't like to negotiate and socialize with people, I've got somebody that'll drive themselves. And that's one of the things that I'm like, well, okay. Then he gets a robot that does stuff for you.
Oh, I never
Little
thought of it that way.
you, no, nobody would think
Let's go to
I'm gonna make
Mars so we don't have to talk to everybody else.
right. I'm not. Nobody's gonna say I'm gonna get a robot to replace human beings because I don't like people. Nobody's gonna make a robot for that. The technology only enhances itself to replace the shortcomings of humanity. We have dishwashers, microwaves, and TV dinners because women don't cook in the kitchen anymore. We have Shark vacuum cleaners and
No,
robots
the
that
women you talk to don't.
not well.
I can
Oh,
introduce
I
you to a whole lot
there's
of women that
there's
like
there's so
cooking.
there's two things. There's two things there. The women that I talk to don't, but the modern day woman in 2024 is not cooking and cleaning a lot
I
of the
know,
time.
I
They are
agree.
they are self-employed. They're working for themselves. They're alpha boss ladies. They don't have time to work at
Mhm.
the house. So if they're not paying for a
Too much
housekeeper,
TikTok,
they're on to look influencer.
too much
They're
social media.
what Instagram famous. They're modeling clothes online. They're
Oh
dancing
yeah, there's
provocatively
money,
online
big
and making
time,
millions of dollars on it as
big time
affiliate
money.
marketers. But they're making the OnlyFans girls. They're making money doing derogatory things online, which is why hey, when Donald Trump gets into office, everybody gonna be mad because certain platforms are gonna get closed down, and then they're not gonna be able to make the money they was making. That 100,000 a month gonna be coming in flipping burgers at a McDonald's, so they're replaced by machines. But my point was
That's better than not having the First Amendment and people trying to take
high
guns
five,
away all the time and
high five.
all that other stuff. All that
but
other stuff, you know.
what I was saying was that when women start going to work, the dishwashers are washing the dishes, the microwaves are cooking the food, the vacuum cleaners are vacuuming the floors. When the logic behind this is you don't have anyone. It's not necessarily a woman's job specifically to cook and clean. It's just the fact that if nobody's
Exactly.
at the house cooking and cleaning, both of them are out working because remember, 99% of the population is poor,
So you
and it's
pick
too,
up after yourself or hire a maid.
or you buy a machine that does it for you.
Well, when you can do that, yeah.
Well, a $500 Shark vacuum cleaner can vacuum the house for a year to 2 years before you have to replace that vacuum cleaner versus paying a maid $50 to $100 a month or more to clean your house.
Yeah,
So
we
stuff
bought
like
one of
that.
those round ones that go by themselves on the floor.
Exactly. And that's what I'm talking about. That type of technology was developed because nobody was vacuuming the floors. A dishwasher was developed because nobody's washing the dishes. We don't have time. The cell
Yeah,
phone,
yeah,
the alarm
okay.
clock, the cell phone's becoming our personal assistant because we don't have good time management, and we don't have anybody to rely on to remind us of stuff, and we forget. So we have calendars, we have alarms, we have geographic locations that tell us, hey, now that you're in this spot, don't forget to call Joe and let Joe know that he's got to be on the show. You don't have anything that is do it yourself anymore. You now have AI that writes your essays because we're too lazy to
Yeah,
write essays.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
AIs that do
Oh,
research for us.
don't get me going on that.
I've got
People
3
will
students right
think for
now.
themselves.
They don't. And that's what I was getting at when Elon Musk decided to make that robot to replace humans, because he was thinking to himself, instead of me relying on a person, I can rely on a machine because it's never going to let me down, because it's not going to be
Yeah,
conflicted with emotion.
yeah.
That's what a train of thought was when that design came about. Between that and I'm going to compete with somebody else who's doing this and I'm going to do it better than them. Those two trains of thought are the only two that would develop that robot. But the first robot came from, I can't count on people, but I can count on a machine. So I can put the machine there, program it to do it, and the machine will always do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. The necessity is the mother of invention, is
That's right.
what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we need a CPA, because we need somebody who knows how to do taxes, because we try to
Until
cut
my
corners.
stock account gets big enough.
Well,
Um,
even when it gets big enough at your age, if you haven't started doing it, I'm going to tell you right now, start up an apprenticeship. Two things: you could teach somebody how to do what you do, so that you got a second generation of your company. Two, you can actually
uh,
get paid for that. You can get paid.
uh-oh. Uh-oh. What happened? You froze. You froze. There you
There it
are.
is. All right, we're back. So,
Okay.
uh, Joe,
Second
whenever you come
generation,
back
you
through,
can
wait
get
for me
paid.
again. 355 million people in America, and with all of the people that we have here in America, we have too many people that need taxes done. Whether you're doing it for yourself or doing it for your business, if you're one person with multiple businesses, you need somebody to handle your taxes. So it's important for us to know somebody who knows how to do that. So you could actually make a ton of money just teaching people how to do taxes. So you could retire out of the tax game and be a teacher. Truthfully.
Oh, there's a lot I can do. I'd have to team up with the right people to do the marketing and everything for me. That's uh-oh, you froze again.
No, that's all right. I can see you.
Yeah.
So long as I
Oh,
can
oh,
see you, don't worry
oh,
about me.
oh,
When
oh,
you
oh,
lose
okay.
signal and you deactivate, that's when you got to get back in. And I understand that
Oh,
your
okay.
system is rocky, my system is rocky too. But we're live streaming on a broadband connection, so sometimes one of us or both of us is going to flicker. It's okay. I'll edit that part out because we're live. So no
All right.
worries. If I lose you, I'll call you because I do believe I got your phone
Yeah,
number. I
maybe
at
you
least
need
got
to
your email.
move up to the next level of the package.
How? I've got okay, so I have check this part out. So this is a business. So this isn't just an
Okay.
individual that's joking around on a podcast like some people are. This is a business, and this business is actually in 3 different states in the United States. This business has a commercial account with T-Mobile, which has the 5G network, which is supposed to be the best 5G network in the country. And I have
Maybe. Okay.
the most expensive top tier magenta status commercial account that is prioritized amongst all of the T-Mobile customers. It doesn't get any better than this based
Oh,
on
all
the status
right.
of my company. I have the maximum. I have an unlimited internet system, an unlimited 5G package that is supposed to be providing me with 1,000 gigabytes of upload and download speed on a regular basis. The problem I have is that the city that I'm in has 5 damaged towers near my area.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. All
And
right, me and my big mouth.
it's no. Normally somebody would be streaming their podcast from their cell phone, streaming their podcast using their home internet. Cox cable. Cox cable is 398 gigabytes. You would have to upgrade to do this. Gamers, you can't use your Frontier or your Bright House. You have to upgrade and get better internet service to live stream. But I actually pay $400 a month for internet service to live stream. The only problem
Got
is
it.
that
Okay.
all five. So you understand there's like 50 to 100 miles in between each cell tower, and all
Okay.
5 towers. So that means about 600 square miles of internet service is down. So 2 cities in this area does not have proper
Where are
internet.
you located?
Arkansas,
Oh,
right next
okay.
to me, and which explains a lot because I'm on the northwest side of Arkansas, which explains a lot because we're getting really close to those bomb silos, so there's not much service over here. So I got to go to the southeast side of Arkansas so that I can get better internet service. So I'm like, all right,
Interesting.
buy a
Okay.
$500,000 house on the southeast side, and that way I got
Uh,
better internet service. It's a lot of money to pay, but it's the cost of doing business. Make money for you.
hey, better than getting stuck in California or New York. I mean,
Well,
people. I have a client, although I may be done with her, who has an apartment in Manhattan, who's really suffering because she's paying rent and it's like the smallest, I can't remember exactly this, it's like 1 bedroom, and
1,000 square feet.
all her room way less than like 600 or 800 or
Oh,
something.
Jesus. That's like a
Yeah.
bedroom with a toilet and a kitchen inside.
Yeah, it's everything. Well, my dad had an efficiency in Manhattan. The kitchen had about 2 feet or a foot and a half of linoleum, and you step from the living room onto the linoleum, and there was the refrigerator, the sink, and some cabinets, and
Wow.
that was the whole kitchen. And
Woo.
other than the living room was a 1 bedroom. and that was his whole apartment. I moved to Texas. I mean, I've got a almost a 3,000 square foot house,
right.
and with 4 bedrooms, and it's like this is giant for me
Yeah,
compared to
they got
New
right
York.
now 30 I'm looking at right now a property with a 3,500 square foot house on a 10-acre piece of property for $335,000. And I'm like, okay,
Oh
they're talking about
wow,
$97 per square foot. Bet I can do that because, you know, the mortgage on that with a VA loan is going to put you right around $1,200 a month for the whole house.
okay,
For the mortgage
okay,
on the house.
that's
With
cheap as can be.
Oh, of course, because when you throw
Really.
down the property
You near a
taxes,
lake? Or
no, there's a
are you near
pond.
any water?
Nope. There's a pond in the backyard though, but
Oh,
there's no water there because waterfront property costs more. But the property taxes and the property insurance together would make the property about $1,900 total for all expenses paid on the property, with zero down for the VA loans on a 40-year refinanced scenario. And I'm like, oh, that is so much better.
at what interest rate?
2.5% interest for 40 years.
I'll buy it and rent it to you.
That's what I was saying. I'm like, you know what? That's cake right there, because you could pick up a property like that. You could turn out rental property, and rental properties in Arkansas are between $800 and $2,000 a month. And
Okay.
you go to California and you're renting the same size. You're renting a smaller property, really, like the one you just described, might be $1,000 to $1,500 a month at the cheapest. Usually, you're looking at properties in California almost $4,000 a month just for the rent, plus
Yeah,
utilities
yeah.
and everything
No,
like that.
I know my nephew lives in San Francisco at the northern part by the bridge. And it was like an extra, he's renting, it was like an extra 400 or 600 a month just to be able to park in the building.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, you got to pay for the parking garage too. So parking
Yeah,
spaces are additional on in apartment
yeah,
complexes with
yeah.
limited parking. They and it's horrible. So you have less parking spaces than you have apartments. So you do preferred parking by
Right.
charging your tenants extra money to
Exactly.
park on property to prevent them from paying the 24-hour pay by spaces outside. So you're going to make money off of them either way,
Either way, right.
because they
Right,
got to have a car.
exactly.
And that's why most people in New York don't have cars, because it costs too much money. But
Oh
Florida,
yeah. Well, my brother lived in Manhattan for many years, and he didn't have a car. In fact, he worked for the city, and he used to carry his tools on the train, which was funny. He was a city electrician. No, I've still had know people that live in the city, and I try to follow up on stuff, and it's funny because there's a guy, Cash, somebody that does these videos about Tren de Aragua and what's going on.
right?
And I just saw a video that there was, they were starting to attack elderly people in the city. And Elon Musk had just been passing around the story that his mother had 3 friends in Manhattan that lives in Manhattan, and they were beat up like senselessly for nothing on the street in the last year. And so, I've
Well,
been, yeah,
I
I've
can
been
only
keeping,
tell Elon, welcome to my world, because when we were being shot at in churches and killed in Walmarts just because we look different, I mean, I can only say that crime is crime, and it's only racist because one person had a tan and one person didn't. But then when it happens to the people who don't have tans, it's like, well, this is normal. It's just we see it more than everyone else.
you know why I'm laughing? Because when I was growing up, living in the city housing projects, we ran from the black kids. It was the black kids that were terrorizing us and jumping us and taking our money.
Right.
And white people, if we were to drive, I drove a cab and I got stuck in the South Bronx and I had to wait for someone to pick me up. It was like the scariest time of my life. We heard stories that if you drove through Harlem, people were taking boulders on the roof and throwing it down on top of your car, and they didn't want any white faces there. Then I moved to the South, and I'm in a predominantly black building, And I can't believe the change. It's like, wait a minute. Everyone's so nice. They hold
Yep.
the door. They ask you how
Yep.
you are.
They help you find
But,
friends if you're not from there. I'm from Louisiana, so I know.
yeah, and that's where Stephanie, my assistant's from. Her family's from Louisiana.
Oh, I'm scared of her now.
And
She's grown.
yeah, they're truck drivers and they're nice and everything. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, but then I run into white people down here, the trailer park type that are
Yep.
like animals that
Yep.
shoot guns for fun. And,
Yep.
and you ever see that um, musical thing, Podunk?
Uh-huh.
But yeah,
I had to
they're
shake
like
my head
those.
to that, but I watched it.
But I'm bumping into people like that.
Oh boy.
And I'm going, this is opposite world.
It is. It is. I
Yeah.
actually on the podcast. So I did a couple podcasts about Donald Trump, not because I wanted to, because my co-host wanted to. I'm not against Donald Trump because he's did a lot of good business deals in the White House, and I personally believe that outside of the business deals that you do, signing contracts, that you're just a figurehead. So I can't really say that any one president makes or breaks a country. We just have a lot of scandals depending on who they are. I mean, yeah, you can make it. You can do some policies and stuff, but like literally, one person cannot influence 355 million people. 355
Of
million
course
people.
not. No, I'll give
First
you
person
my.
accountability. We all contributed to destroying the country.
Well, yeah, that's why we can't have a democracy. It has to be, according to the
But
Constitution.
what I did was
No,
I did it to my point. I'm gonna let you speak on that. But my point was I did two different shows about Trump, and one was about his immunity deal, and the other one was about those golden shoes that he put out that had that Confederate flag on there. And one of my fans came up on the show and they were like, "Yo, that's a racist shoe." And I was like, "Well, I mean, it's a Confederate flag, but I mean, yeah, it does kind of look like a racist shoe." But
oh,
think
I
about
missed the Confederate flag part. Oh, okay.
right, but I was
I
like,
didn't know that.
think about it. That well, okay, so on the side of the shoe towards the top, there is a blue square or blue rectangle with
Okay.
5 stars on it. Okay, and
Right,
you
okay.
don't notice it, but those 5 stars is the embolism of the X in the star pattern of the blue part of the Confederate flag.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
nobody really paid attention to that, but I'm like, look at he literally put it on there, which I ain't got no beef with it because originally it was just supposed to represent a military party. However, over the years after the Civil War, people utilized that particular flag to represent racist behavior in the South. Now, I had somebody jump up on my podcast, and that person wanted to argue with me that that flag was not used for racist behavior. He's from the North. I said, hold on. Your history and my history are different because you're from North America, North United States. I'm from South United States. There's 165 years of people marching up and down the street with long sheets and big hoods and red bandanas with torches and pit bull dogs and a Confederate flag. They were on the Jerry Springer show with it, and they used that flag the same way Nazis used the swastika to represent their agenda. The flag itself was not designed for conflict. The flag itself was just to represent a military that had to be created because the North was conquering the South because the South didn't have a military and the North did have a military. Now, all of that led to the guy was trying to talk me out of he made me believe that I was wrong, or he tried to. And then after I started giving him the history, I spent 30 minutes giving him the history on the podcast. And then when I gave him the history of it, he was like, "Oh, so you are actually a knowledgeable person about American history." I'm like, "Of course. I'm not going to just jump up here and say something racist. If it sounds racist, that's because somebody did something that had racist connotation to it. But if it is history and that's what happened, that's what happened." But I explained to him the way people treated each other in the North is way different from the way people treated each other in the South. So you might have grew up in a neighborhood where black people wear Confederate flags and would have been in the Confederate military, but the people in the South that were forced into the military to prevent from being killed off, and the people in the South that had to hide from people marching through the streets with shotguns talking about keeping America great. And those people who now feel offended because the phrase "making America great again" stems back to a previous day.
I heard that. I heard that. There was a show, I don't know if Candace Owens was on it or what, and the guy was complaining, what do you mean make America great again? It
Right.
wasn't great before. And
Never
he
been
went
great.
Let
It's
me
never
tell
been
you,
great.
when I was younger, I hired this guy named Nat, and under his bed when he was growing up was an escape hole.
Right.
So anytime the Klan came, they just pulled the covers aside and went down the tunnel and escaped out.
And that kept them from being taken out. And that's one of the things that
Exactly.
people don't understand, that there was more Klan activity in the southern states than what there were in the northern states. And
Oh, gee, yeah.
and
Yeah.
the Confederate flag in the
We
southern
didn't have
states,
any in the North.
and the Confederate flag in the southern states have racial connotation to it because of the way it was used. So people who
Okay.
wear Confederate belt buckles, people who put Confederate flags on their Ford F-150s, and then have a rope designed like a noose hanging off the back of that truck, gives off a negative impression to
I
people who
remember
know
that
what that
in
history.
Texas. Was it Port of Texas? They
Yeah.
whooped that guy and drove him behind the truck.
Yep. And so now that you see a rope on the back of a truck with a Confederate flag on it, that's what it represents. But that's not where lynching continues. The most recent time somebody got hung from a tree was in St. Louis. That's not the South. A minority person got hung from a tree in St. Louis. That's in the North.
How
That was
long
in the
ago?
North. 10 or 20 years ago, but it's recent. It
Oh,
was
okay.
recent. It was recent though, in comparison to slavery. It was recent in
Well,
comparison to
yeah,
segregation.
yeah.
We
Well,
stopped.
let me give you my take on a few things. I'm going to tell you one thing about Donald Trump because I knew of him growing up. I skated at the women's skating rink before they shut it down. That's the rink in front of Trump Tower that he got opened up. It's my belief that he is a solid business guy, solid in the sense that he understands business and people. And there's nobody of our choices now better to run this country.
Yeah. So when I talked about him, that's exactly what I said. I said that I because people who say that he's racist or not racist, I'm like, well, I can't really say whether he is or he isn't. I can say for a fact though that he's going to say what he wants to say because he has the freedom to say that, and nobody can judge him for it because that's his First Amendment right. And then everything that he does is good business, like the tariffs, like that 30-foot long wall with the solar panels that was supposed to be on it that nobody ever finished. Like all of that stuff is good business. But when he opened up the pipeline with the 100 years of oil we're sitting on in the United States to save money, he does good business.
Tell me when they closed the Keystone Pipeline, that affected a lot of clients that I had because that oil money flows down to all these other, auxiliary operations.
So,
but I gotta say something.
Real quick though, something did grind my gears.
They're trying to divide the country, and I think that with all this racist bullshit. Because when I grew up, one of my favorite books was Race Riots, a book that had jokes about everybody's nationalities. We would go downstairs, and for fun, we would, there were Puerto Rican, Jewish, Italian, Black. And we would make race jokes with each other, and then we would play ball together. There wasn't that kind of hatred.
We would fight each other today and protect each other tomorrow. It was
exactly
a good lifetime.
You went to school with them. You hung out with them.
And they have said in the past, a country divided will never stand and never prosper.
Exactly.
And there's so many that I have said plenty of times on this podcast that we actually do not have true racism in modern day times. It is just social classism. It's a new position.
Exactly.
You're not going to get in because you're black. You're going to get in because you're poor.
the stuff we were talking about before, that was racism.
Right.
What you got now is stupid people.
Yeah, we got stupid people doing stupid stuff, and then we got stupid people that are going to play towards racism to prevent from admitting the fact that they're doing stupid stuff. You can't walk into a place that requires suit and tie as a dress code, and you're going to go there with your pants hanging off your rear with a bandana hanging out your back pocket. You're not going to do that. They're not going to let you in.
Right. Right.
People
Right.
who dress like that are typically up to bad things, so they are not going to let you in based on your attire, not based on your skin color. So
Exactly.
the code of ethics dictates that people with lower class mindsets and lower class behavior patterns are not allowed in higher class facilities. So you're not going to be not allowed in because you're black. You're just not allowed in because you're ignorant, because you're disrespectful, because you're rude, because you're not going to respect this facility or the people in it. So we're not going to let you in to mess the place up. You're not going to give us a bad reputation because we're not going to let you in the building. People are going to say, oh, that's racism. That's not racism. That's social classism. Because lower class
people messed up when they started playing with Martin Luther King.
Tell me about it.
Making him wrong.
The only thing I disliked about Donald Trump in recent times, and I got to give him his props for it because I did it too, but I didn't like it when I saw it. He was in McDonald's working, right? You seen that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I love the fact that he was working, but he was getting the fries with no gloves on. And I was
no, you're not supposed to wear gloves. I used to work fries.
No. You're shaking hands. You're not washing your hands after you shake hands.
Yeah, you gotta wash first. You're right.
If you're not gonna shake hands in the drive-through and wash your hands before you go back to the food, you were supposed to put gloves on, go to the food, do the food, take the glove off, shake hands with the fans, wave to the people, take a picture, go back, put some more gloves on, and go mess with the food. If you're only messing with food, you don't have to wear gloves. You just wash your hands before you touch something different because of cross-contamination. But you served a value meal to the drive-through, shook hands to the drive-through person, came back into the drive-through, and started shuffling more fries. I'm like, come on, bro. We used to always do that. So I'm like, hey, I'm glad that you out there. You wouldn't be able to handle a short-handed rush, but I'm like, you supposed to put on gloves, D. You supposed to be showing us proper etiquette. But he was doing it the way we do it, so I can't knock him on that.
Huh? You must be hard to live with.
I'm actually very easy to live with because I'm accommodating to other people, but I'm Mr. Uniformity. So that means if I got to do it, I expect you to do it too. I'm not going to expect you to do something I'm not willing to do, and I'm not going to force you to do nothing that I haven't already done. So I'm not going to ever give you an instruction that I haven't already accomplished under the mentality that if you don't do it, I will. But if I got to do it, I don't need you. That means I replace you. So that particular type of behavior pattern allows me to have a very strong social network because the people that I still communicate with, which is very few, are people that are willing to do what I'm willing to do,
right? Exactly.
Right or wrong.
Exactly. They let you play that role.
You have to have a very strong network of people that are going to accommodate your agenda because otherwise you're never going to be successful. If you're trying to make a bag, if you're trying to get money, and you're trying to run a business.
No, I agree with you. There's just something else you said though. I wish I could remember what it was that didn't make sense to me. No, I agree with you. You got to put your foot there like on time.
Let me know what that was because I always make it make sense on this podcast. Let me know what it was.
Yeah, I can't read you. It was part of your rant there, and I
do have some rants. When I was talking about
when
I was talking about Trump.
No, what you were talking about
just now with
your philosophy here of dictating and
okay. So when I said that I hold people accountable for so I said that I'm a man of uniformity. I only expect people to do what I'm expected to do, and I am only going to ask people to do what I am willing to do, and I have already done. So I will never ask you to do something that I can't do, that I didn't do, that I'm not willing to do. And if I have to do it because you won't do it, then I'll replace you. That's what I was saying.
Ooh, I think you said it a little bit different before. It was the part that I was
unclear about.
Yeah, well, probably, but the part that I was taking objection to was that you would have an expectation that someone would do what you wanted to do solely because you had done it before, as if
no. I will never my expectations for you are so this is going to be based on mutual respect, and it also works in relationships too. I can only
Well,
trust
yeah,
you to do I can only trust you to do what I'm willing to do. So if I can be trusted in a room full of people and not cheat on you, I can trust you to be in a room full of people and not cheat on me because I wouldn't do it. If I couldn't trust myself in that particular situation, I can't trust you in that situation. My expectations for people and social interactions.
right. Your level of self-esteem is going to carry over into relationships.
Right. So my expectation of other people in social
Exactly.
interactions is that I cannot expect you to do something that I am not willing to do. So only the things that I
Slow down. You that you're not willing to do. Well, expect. Yeah, I would
yeah.
agree with that. But you would still ask, wouldn't
Yeah.
you?
Well
Okay.
I would
Okay.
only ask you if I were willing to do it. So I'm not gonna
Well,
the
why? Why?
why?
Why? Maybe the other person wants to do it.
Okay, so the logic behind that is that if I'm not willing to do it, why what makes
Well,
if
that's
it
for the bad things. Yeah.
well, but that's how
The
I
dares.
decipher the dares. But that's how I decipher the difference between reasonable expectations and unreasonable expectations. I can always ask you to do something that I'm not qualified to do, like hiring a CPA to help me with my taxes so I don't mess up my taxes. I can ask you to do that, or I can pay you to do that. I can negotiate something with you. But
Right.
I can't ask you to go rob a bank because I'm not willing to rob a bank. I'm only going to be able to ask you to do something. I only feel
Yeah,
comfortable
well,
with
that's what
asking
I'm
you to do
saying.
stuff.
Maybe you can. I could ask
That,
you if you want to. Like there might be something I'm not willing to do, but I might say to you, well, would you like to do this? It's something I'm not willing to do, but you and I may have different values. So is this
I don't.
something
Okay,
you
so
do?
the difference between not wanting to do it versus okay, so let me see because I can understand how that
What
doesn't
do
make
you
sense.
mean
Uh
unethical? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so not wanting to do it from a, I feel like I'm too good for this. I got better things to do, or I just don't want to specifically do that. Like for example, if it was beneath me to wash out a dumpster and I want one of my coworkers to do that because I am above them in authority, I would only ask them to do that because when I was in their position, I was cleaning out dumpsters. And if that dumpster
Why?
needs to be cleaned out
Why?
because that because I
What
can't
if
feel
that condition didn't exist and
if
you
that
need
condition
them to clean it out?
if it needs to be done, so from the position of a leader, from my expectations of a position of a leader, the
Okay,
leader is only as successful as the weakest link in his team.
I
Now,
agree.
a leader that leads from the rear is going to fill in the blanks of the weakest links.
I
So when the
agree.
weak links do not perform, the leader is supposed to be capable of performing that task. In a scenario
Yeah.
where a
Oh,
subordinate does not do something, say clean out that dumpster, it still needs to be done, and it's still my responsibility, my team's responsibility to get it done. So who's going to do it? I'm
yeah.
going to do it.
Until you get, no, I agree with you. Until you get, that works for administrative type stuff, but until you get the technical stuff,
There's
then
things that I
you're going to,
can't do, and that's what I have
exactly.
to. But the things that I can't do, I'm going to hire somebody to do it for me. But the difference is that I'm not forcing you to do something or compelling you to do something that you
Right. I
don't
was
want to
agreeing
do.
with that use of word, that expectation. I
Right.
was agreeing with that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can
Yeah.
understand how that became misunderstood because I have no intentions of forcing people to do stuff that they don't want to do. But
Right.
when I think about
Right.
social interaction, I started developing a mentality that life is like like I'm a walking business. When I interact with people, um, hanging out as friends, my behavior reflects me and my company, and the company that I keep is either going to give my business a good reputation or a bad reputation. The things that I'm willing to do and not willing to do is also supposed to be in line with the people that I associate with. So that means that if I'm not willing to be involved with something or be identified in something that you're doing, I'm not supposed to be over there. Likewise, if you're with me, if I'm expecting us to behave a certain way, like for example, I'm not going to rob the
No,
liquor store.
I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I
You
don't want
know,
somebody that's with me that's robbing liquor stores because I don't want you to be in my car with stolen merchandise and now we all go to jail because you stole something. So when
right,
I say
right.
don't do something that I'm not willing to do or do something that I would
That's
do,
what you mean.
That's what I mean. If I would
Okay.
if I
All
would
right.
take that action, I would ask you to
Okay.
take that action. If I'm not willing
Okay.
to take that action, the
Right.
being willing to take that action versus electing you to do it, that's delegation. If you refuse to do it, I'm still going to do it. But if I'm not willing to do that action, even if you don't do it, I shouldn't be asking you to do it because the
Right,
the
right.
the
From the
question is
standpoint you just said that you're as good as the company you keep, and
right.
yeah, and I agree with that. Sure, of course.
So
You
so
and
and
it's
and
so
that
hard.
that's why
It's hard to do that though.
you
It's
know,
kind of hard if you have a lot of time on your hands and your office is running itself. I could see that,
it's
but
harder for you to run your entire business by yourself. You are going to have to hire
exactly.
people to do the job for you. But the job that you're hiring people to do is stuff that you don't have time to do, not stuff that you're not willing to do if nobody else was there to do it.
Well, I
So,
don't know. There's certain things I'm not willing to do, not because of a bad nature, like you were describing before, but they're just things I don't like um, taking incoming calls from strangers.
right.
A
But
lot
before
of
you hired
people.
Stephanie, you took your own calls, right?
No, I had someone before her, and I had someone before that, and
So
someone
so when you
before
first
that.
started working as a
Yeah,
tax
let
agent,
me
did you take
think.
your own
Okay,
calls?
let me think. All the way back, did I have my office? No, I was in my house. I let the recorder get the call, and then I picked it up. And then when I had an office, I hired someone. I'm thinking that I had let the recorder um, get the
Screen
call,
the calls for you,
and then and then I would call back. I lost my
and then
first client playing games like that, a Mr.
right.
Smoothie.
And
Yeah.
that is what I'm talking about. At one point in time, you ran your own phones your way. Then you
Yeah, but
hired
not for
somebody to run the
long and
phones for
not
you.
not not for long and not
Not as
much.
not, but it's only as much as you needed to. And then when you had enough capital, you hired somebody to take over that role. And if in the
Oh,
event that
yeah,
you
okay, alright. No, I get what you're saying.
yeah,
It's
and then
like
if in the event that you
everybody.
fired yeah, and then if in the event that you fired somebody until you hired somebody else, you might have to take your own calls for a short period of time, and then you're going to hire somebody else to take over. But you're willing to do that if the person that you hired to do that doesn't do it because you're going to keep your business running. That's what I'm talking about. So
Okay,
even though like you don't handle your own payroll because you hire somebody to handle the payroll, but if you didn't have somebody
okay, I
handling the
do
payroll,
handle my
you
own
would pay your
payroll.
own employees. That's what I'm
Actually,
talking
I
about.
do I've always handled my own payroll, but and I do it on a spreadsheet,
Yeah, that's the best
a
way to do it.
manual spreadsheet, a big
That's because
green pad.
that's actually better to do because even if you keep it on an Excel spreadsheet on your computer, if your hard drive corrupts, you have to be able to have a hard copy to fall back on because you never know when you might spill coffee on your laptop if you don't back it up in other places. But yeah, that's what I mean by that. There's nothing in an individual's life that if they really wanted to do they would not do it for themselves. You don't have to want to do it to the point where you'll pay somebody else to do it for you or ask somebody to voluntarily do it for you. But if nobody wants to do it for you
No,
when
no,
you want it done, that's
I
what you're doing
totally
wrong.
see your point
Yeah,
because
that's what I get
if
on that.
you're ever going to get anywhere, that's what you got to do. And that was my attitude when I first started. I wasn't going to wait. I mean, I didn't have any backup, family,
Yep.
money, anything.
Right.
And so I knew when I had moved to California and I had $2,000 in the bank, period. And um, as soon as I got there, my car broke down and I had to pay for repairs. Luckily, things were pretty cheap then,
Tell me
but
about it.
I had to do everything. I'll spare you the details, but yeah, I had a goal that I wanted to do well in accounting, and anything that was in the way, I had to take care of first, like you're saying, until you're able to pay for somebody to do it.
Right. And that's where my
So, yeah.
mentality comes from. So then I take that business mentality, put it into my social life, and I won't ask a friend to help me change my tire if I'm not willing to change my tire. I won't ask a friend to give me a
Huh.
ride somewhere if I'm not willing to give them a ride somewhere. It allows me to
Oh,
maintain
yeah,
a level
yeah.
of mutual respect for people
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I feel
And I
like
have bumped into people that didn't follow that
eh,
sometimes.
and I feel bad if I'm on the receiving end of that, where if you
Yeah.
need me, you call me and I give you a ride. But if I need you, you tell me tough luck. So
Yep.
if I'm not willing to give you a ride, if I'm not willing to come to your aid, I'm not
Man,
gonna
knock
ask you
those
for one.
people out. You
So
you you just gotta knock those people out, that's all.
right, right. So and that's why I have such a small inner circle, because I have people like, if I'm gonna go the extra mile for you, then I have to have those people that are willing to go the extra mile for me. Because when the deal goes full circle, if we're not balancing out, if it's not a symbiotic relationship, one person is using the other.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, if one person is receiving more out of an engagement, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a business situation, if one person is receiving more than the other, it is not a mutual engagement. It is not the law of alchemy. It's not uniformism. One person is
Whoa,
getting
whoa,
more.
whoa, whoa, wait a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah.
That
Equivalent
might
exchange.
that might be okay.
Yeah, if you're on the receiving end.
Right, you could be an apprenticeship.
But you are getting this. You're okay. So in an apprenticeship, you are gaining knowledge for effort.
Yeah, but what if it's not even? Because that was your point, that you
My
didn't
my
you
point
said
was
if
is that
it's if one was getting more is what you said.
yes, I did. So when I say when one is getting more, okay, if you had me running errands for you all the time, I'm not learning anything. I'm just doing what you tell me to do. You're not paying me
Maybe
to do this.
you are.
If you were paying me, then it's part of
Wash
my job.
on, wash off.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So take that from Karate Kid and put that
Mhm.
into perspective. Even though you are being given instructions from this person, you don't know where it leads, you are learning something. That is equivalent exchange. I'm gaining knowledge from you, which does not have a monetary value, for the effort that I'm doing for you. That's equivalent exchange.
Yeah, but you
If you're
only know that at the end.
at the end, but if you're
According
giving
to
me
you,
money.
you would break that relationship because you'd be like, "Hey, this guy's supposed to teach me karate, and he's got me washing his
No,
car. Later for that,
according to
I'm
me,
gone."
if I was paying you to wash my car and clean my dojo and fix my house, and I'm just giving you money and nothing's getting done, I would say, okay, I'm paying too much money, I'm not getting anything in return. That's what I'm saying. If I'm the one that's doing the giving,
Right.
and I'm not getting anything in return, this is not a symbiotic relationship, because I'm not benefiting from all of my giving. If I'm the person receiving, then I
That's
feel
when
like
you
I've
have
got
to
to.
have the discussion.
That's right. So I do not terminate engagements with people short notice because I don't like the
Good,
way things go. I'm an old fashioned
good.
person. At 40 years of age, I still have old school upbringing. I'm the last of a dying breed. So the last generation, that's how I was taught. I grew up with typewriters. I know what's going on. I had 8-track tape players, reel to reel players. I seen when black and white TV went to color TV. I know what antennas look like. I know how we had to hold the little thing with the metal rod and the aluminum foil on it and put it in a certain
Touch it to the
position
window.
and hold it there until the show ended, so that everybody could
Touch
watch the
David.
TV. Mix tapes, when you had to take the little piece of paper and put it in a little open spot so that you could record on it. You had to wait until the
Yep.
radio guy got off and hit the play and record button to record the stuff so that you could make the mixtape for the girl at school. I remember when we used to have to write on a little piece of paper,
My
"Do you like
kids
me?
did
Yes or
that.
no." Check
Yeah.
the boxes. I'm old school. You understand?
Yeah, my
I
40-year-old son did that. Yeah.
I know how to change the tape on the typewriter. I'm old school. Okay. So the fact is, I'm not giving up on folks. But I understand that if it is not mutual, that we need to discuss this, that it is not mutual, that you're
Oh, yeah,
benefiting, but you're not
yeah,
putting out.
yeah.
But understanding that if you recognize that you're not putting out and you're benefiting and you're not willing to change that, that's when I say, okay, well, look, something's got to get done. Either I got to start benefiting from you the way you're benefiting from me, or we got to start
You
we
know,
got to start
it's
rethinking each other.
kind of a shame that even and don't take this the wrong way, but it
Oh, I know.
just in general, it's kind of a shame that even has to be like a topic. It's
I
kind of
agree.
like Trump saying that, hey, I'm going to keep men out of the women's bathroom, and
I
it's
thought
like
that was stupid. A, a toilet is a toilet. Why does the genitalia between my legs dictate which room I use the bathroom in?
Because there's a whole lot of people that are perverts.
Okay, versus the men in dresses and
And
women in
there
dresses
are
like
and there
you.
are some guys that would jump on women
Oh,
if they
okay,
saw them naked.
okay. Now,
And
with
there's
all due
older
respect,
men that are minor attractive, and
I completely
you
understand that too, but I also come from the understanding that people who break laws break laws. So when you make a
yes.
law for an upstanding citizen to now say that I can't use the bathroom at the local racetrack because the men's room is down, now I've got to get in a car and drive another 5 miles down the street to go use the bathroom somewhere else because
Oh
there's
well,
no
no,
male
no.
bathroom.
They should accommodate people.
How? If
Well, you
there's
have two lines, and one goes men go, and then when they're done, women go, and then when they're
but
done, men go.
I've already experienced this one time before in
Or you mark off the draw line in the middle of it. But go
it
ahead.
was no. I'm trying to think of the city I was in. It was a city in Florida,
Okay.
closer to Pasco County. It was a small town. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But I went there.
Okay.
It was a gas station. The men's room was out of order. The only bathroom that was left was the women's room. There wasn't a unisex bathroom in the establishment. There were
Okay.
female
Yeah.
employees that were in the building, and they got offended because I was using the bathroom in the women's bathroom because that was the only bathroom that they had. And they're like,
No,
"Oh yeah,
that's
I'm gonna
wrong.
call the police and I'm gonna have you trespass it." It's like I had to poop. I bought
Yeah.
gas and I'm trying to
Yeah.
poop, and I can't hold
Yeah.
that for another 5
Yeah.
miles because your bathroom is out of order. You're turning away half of your
Right.
clientele because you want to say that this is exclusive because you're a woman. That's unfair. That's
Yeah.
unfair. That's equivalent to when Camila was talking about her abortion topic, talking about pro women. Women are the only ones that have rights to choose whether or not children live or die. I'm like, hold on.
Mm.
If I'm not, I can't force you to get rid of it, but I should have a
No
choice in
choice.
whether you have it. I should have a choice in whether you have it. If I want it and you don't want it, pop it out like a surrogate and give it to me. The same way people put it up
Yeah.
for adoption, the
Yeah.
same way people sell it. If I want it, you're supposed to give it to me. You can't tell me that I don't have no wants and
You
you're
know
gonna kill
that,
it.
that'll
But if
never
you have
be.
it, you're gonna make me pay for it. No, that's not fair.
No, I've seen that on a talk show. They're like, okay, well, if you have it, then I don't have to pay for it. But unfortunately, that'll never get settled. It's
But my
not
thing is with Trump when he said about the
what.
toilets for men and toilets for women. Our problem that we have right now is that you can declare whatever you want to declare nowadays. So how can you say that the men's room is for men's room only when you have men, women, non-men, non-women, and everything in between? So everybody that doesn't claim to be a man, where do they go?
So have a third one.
And you know what? If you change the building code where there's a requirement for a male's room, a female's room, and an everybody else room that is usually identified as a family room, then you would have no problems. If the men's room's down, there's two other choices, and that would
Yeah.
make perfect sense. But
Yeah.
in order for that law to make sense, every establishment must have three restrooms, three options.
A lot of establishments, and in the South better than me, only have one.
Only have one restroom for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And nobody's being snatched up. No kids are being knocked off in the bathrooms. You don't
Right.
have.
Right. Oh no, they were wrong for threatening to call the police.
Oh
You
yeah,
had to
but
tell it.
I laughed at him. I'm like, well, I mean, the pump is running, so if they can get here before I leave, but I'm not going to hang out for this situation to go down. By all means, go ahead and do what you got to do. But I've got a 2,000-mile drive that I've got to make, and I'm going to use the bathroom before I leave. And
Here's some toilet paper. Go. There's an outhouse in the back.
yeah. So you can't use the bathroom outside,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
what I
the
told her. Like, what do you
bathroom
want
is
me to
for
do? Like,
whites only.
and when I walked out into the main lobby, the male employee, he's like, well, what's wrong with her? She's pissed off that I pooped in the bathroom that
Yeah,
she wanted to poop
yeah,
in.
yeah,
And he's like,
yeah,
and his response,
yeah,
I love his response, and that's why I remember this story. His response was, but there's two toilets in there. What's her problem?
yeah.
There was one for me
exactly.
and one. There's 2 toilets in that bathroom. What's her problem? I don't know. She had a bathroom and I had one too. I don't know. So
Yeah.
me and him laughed about it. He's like, "Do what you got to
I,
do."
it's funny because I went to good schools, and we used to laugh at people that failed some of their classes, just passed by the skin of their teeth.
Get promoted because of their age.
And I didn't realize that when we grew up, they have jobs, and you bump into those kind of people, and the rest of the world is not at the level you were at,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you just have to understand there's how do I say this? Do you know who Leo Gura is?
Not off the top of my
He
head.
has a website called actualize.org,
Okay.
and he does these very long talks and videos on self-actualization. And there's some psychologists that have done a study about the level of people, how like actualized they are, and how we go through different stages, and there's colors to it. I wish I could think of the name of it.
That's okay.
And
We'll find it.
there's like stage red, and he says Trump is like stage red because you're kind of like tit for tat, and you haven't really gotten to a higher level yet of thinking. And before that, it's purple, it's more tribal. And if you think there's like some places in LA that are like that, where the gangs police the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a girl that used to work for me from El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
And when she went home to visit her family, she had to explain to the gang that she's a local and where her family lived. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't have let her into the neighborhood.
Right.
So there's plenty of areas that gangs control.
Gangs
And
used to be a way to internally police the neighborhood. It was almost like our modern day community watch,
oh yeah,
but it was an
well, in New
unofficial.
York, the mafia. I grew up in the late '60s, early '70s, and there were neighborhoods, Little Italy, where women can sit out with baby carriages late at night, totally safe. When other parts of further down a mile or two away, people would be afraid. Anybody would be afraid to be
Right.
out at night
Uh,
because they policed their own neighborhood.
It just turns
I
out that these days the gangs are all about shooting each other up, and I'm like, why?
oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
seen some kids catch one another at a traffic light while the mom was driving. They managed to only get the kid in the passenger seat, but they're shooting each other up in cars. And these are 18 or older kids that they were able to buy their own gun. And then and that's why they say, well, we should do the gun laws and be more strict on the gun law. No, you the mentality of society cannot be improved by being more strict on the people that obey the law. You're not going to get more cooperation from a society that doesn't want to obey the law by
My
adding
my
more laws to the people who do obey the law.
Yeah, my best friend David, they had moved to Massachusetts, and then he became a police officer, and he was in the National Guard too. It had a bumper sticker that said, "Outlaw guns, and only outlaws will have guns."
That's right.
And I always thought that was a pretty intelligent statement.
It's the smartest thing I've heard in a while. And truth is that what Benjamin Franklin said that before, that you are entitled to your freedom and your civil liberties, and anybody who, I mean, your security and your civil liberties, and anybody who sacrifices their security for their civil liberties or vice versa doesn't deserve either. So you're not supposed to
Yeah, yeah,
sacrifice your safety for your rights, and you're not supposed to sacrifice your rights for your safety, because you're entitled to your rights and your safety. So if you don't have the right to protect yourself, then you don't deserve any rights, because like you can't trust somebody else to protect you over yourself.
right, right. Right.
How you doing, Lucky? This is
Except for
the gentleman's son that I was talking about. Is your dad around? Because that you got to be over the age of 18 to jump up onto the podcast. Because I know Joe was supposed to come through and say hey to our CPA when we were talking about taxes today.
oh, that's what we were talking about.
Oh, hey, no. You're not lost. You are not lost by far. On this podcast, we talk about this, that, and everything in between. So while we were supposed to originally talk about taxes eventually, we were this is an open-ended podcast that is an open forum, open-minded discussion where whatever we end up talking about, we are free to talk about. But before I let you go at any point in time, you are going to talk to us about taxes. So while we're not talking about taxes, we still got a long way to go because I've got no other engagements after this podcast for the
Oh
next 48 hours. So whenever you and I finish
no,
talking,
I gotta go to sleep sometime. I get up at 3 o'clock.
3 a.m. and that is a successful individual because you start your morning before anybody else starts their morning. You're able to get your stuff together, start paying
Yeah,
attention to all your business strategies, start
yeah,
making moves while other people are asleep. By the time they wake up, you've been up for 4 to 6 hours. You've gotten all of your primary
yeah.
priorities together, and now you're starting to take business to make more money, make money for you. And
It,
that's what I
it
tell people.
sounds better when you say it than when I do it.
It doesn't feel
I,
that way.
I take my vitamins and I do my workout, and I waste the rest of the time um, watching videos.
I only have 2 to 4 hours of sleep every night. I spend most of my time either dealing with this podcast, students that I teach in Asia, or
Oh
uh
my!
my real estate business or the nonprofit that I utilize, and then my business partner helping him with the other half of the business that's in Florida. And then we also have the business that's in Nevada. So I got a lot of wheels turning because I am the
Yeah,
leader of of all of the companies that my name are on, and I make sure that I handle a majority of the operations, and I only elect people that I can trust that are willing to do what I'm willing to do to keep the business structure successful. And then I as the face of all of these entities, I make sure that I put myself in hopefully a reasonably positive light. And I try to teach everybody the same stuff that I've learned and incorporated into myself. So that as I was taught that a mentorship is not just something that you get into, you learn it, and then you just do it. It's something that becomes a way of life where you're supposed to mentor people across on the same level as you and mentor down to the people that haven't learned what you learned. And nobody is too good to be taught by somebody else. A homeless guy can teach a rich guy something the same way an average person can teach something to a lesser a
call that
child can teach something
sourcing.
to an adult.
We
So
call that sourcing. In the S training, you
uh-huh,
familiar with Werner Erhard?
uh-huh,
Uh,
yes.
it's called landmark education now. Um, we call that sourcing. We learned that you can source benefit from anyone. Don't judge someone's status or anything, but you can learn from anything.
Yeah,
So
so and then
yeah,
because so many people are trying to sell knowledge uh so that they
yeah,
don't have to work hard, I just give it away for free. So if
yeah.
I learn something, I'm gonna like, hey, stick with me because
Oh no, let me tell you. I know I learned something recently that I just went through like a life change.
okay,
Okay. Um, so COVID happens, and actually I had two really good years in 2020 and 2021 because people got their stimulus checks and they decided, okay, I'm going to take care of my tax problems. Um, but I started saying to myself, for a guy that's, you know, graduate graduated magna cum laude from one of the top four state schools in New York in accounting, the guy who has a chemical engineering degree from high school, and all these other things that I did, and licenses. I'm a certified financial planner, a CPA. I've got my life and health licenses. Um, my stockbroker, my commodity trading advisor licenses,
hmm,
and
I'm glad you said
why?
that. So when I start talking about trading, I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
call you my
why
second.
am I piling it higher and deeper? Why? You know? And so I actually created a program called McOil, mc-oyl.com. I don't know if we took it down or not. We may have connected it to our main site. It's called Manage Control of Your Life. And I really beat myself until I figured out what to do. Um, and I hadn't gotten into politics before, and it was never into politics. And I started taking a look at the country and things, and the vaccine and just everything. And I realized that a lot of the things you're saying, that I've got to be the force. It's got to be from me, not externally. And
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I went to his last week long meditation session in Dallas this past August. I did a 5 hour meditation, and I actually had another being. It's really weird. Like step on my toe, and I felt it. But I went there to accomplish something, and it was to be able to sell to people. Oh, I'm leaving something out. I also, and I'm 69 years old, I'll be 70 next June. I went to San Diego and became a certified tax coach. I'll be a certified tax planner the next level next June, actually. This is the American Institute of Certified Tax Planning,
Hmm.
and they're like top level. They do plans for, um, you know, really rich people, and but and so what I realized is I have a routine that I do now, and I'll spare you the details of the routine, but I bought that idea of retirement. Okay. And you said it earlier about working rather than just doing something and suddenly you're rich. Well, I bought that idea, and then I realized that my greatest happiness comes from being productive every day, from stretching myself, from being active, it's not from um, not playing at your best. Alzheimer's sets in to people. There's so many things, and I learned epigenetics. You actually can change DNA with thought. Um, and don't want to get too esoteric here,
Oh, it's
but
okay.
breathing. I mean, I like if I want to go to sleep, I know if I breathe a certain way, bam. If I want to, I've tightened my stomach just from breathing the right way.
Hmm.
And I'm back to doing my workouts. I run marathons. I haven't the last 3 years because I've been lazy and put work ahead. And
It's good that you're able to say that with confidence, because a lot of people are not willing to admit when their procrastination and their lack of motivation overwhelms them.
oh yeah, oh
It,
yeah.
it happens to the best of us, but instead of blaming somebody else, you were able to own up to it and say, "Yeah, no, straight up, I just haven't been doing it because I've been lazy, not because I've been too busy, because I just didn't apply myself to it."
Exactly. Exactly. Before that, about 10, 12 years ago, my thyroid was going. I needed thyroid medication, but I knew I wanted to run, so I made sure I took care of my thyroid. Um, and so now my McOil thing was basically it's just a self workshop where you list the things that are important to you that you're going to work on. You know, one of the things I had noticed is if you don't stay focused, like you're a hard driving man. You are. You remind me of my friend Sam, who this guy was a bulldog. He built his own insurance agency from scratch, no help from anybody. Um, and I've known him since the early '80s. Things when you focus on, like, my things were confidence, self-esteem. I've changed because it's a fluid, you know, as you learn things, you it's like peeling the onion off.
Right.
um, we don't challenge ourselves when we have all of us, we have an intention. Okay, this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do this and this, and oh, something happened. Somebody interrupted me. Oh, that got boring. Oh, I got a pain. Oh, I forgot I have to do that. And
I'm with you. I'm listening. Yep. That's exactly what happens a lot of the times.
it's so easy to get off your schedule, but life is focus.
It's easy to quit. It's hard to keep going.
Life is focus. And I've been practicing focus for months, and it's amazing because it'll kick you in the ass, but it'll get you from A to B. I mean, for me, again, this might sound weird, but I write down I call it my McOil map notes, manage control of your life.
Right.
And I know if I get involved in stuff and days go by that I didn't make my notes, I know something got screwed up.
Yep.
And I'll go back to my notes and I'll go, oh, that's why I'm off track, because I didn't do my notes. And every day when I do my notes, I'm on track. And I was able to do that for myself. And yeah, there were times 2 weeks will go by because I'll be so involved in stuff. You don't want it to become some really good course you took 2 years ago. You got to live your life out of it. And what I taught myself is I have this ongoing project where I manage what controls my life. And I know if I stay with it daily, that I'll get the things I want. And things started happening. Relationships with people got better. I wasn't as strained to get to what I wanted out of it. Um, Trading, I trading just got really good because I figured out for decades what was in my way. I had lost a lot of money trading for stupid things. And my knowledge of charts and technical analysis is pretty up there. It was a total emotional thing. And I won't say I took the emotion out of it, but let's just say what I'm doing now,
It's more rational and logical thinking.
yeah, exactly. And the emotional comfort is there. If you don't feel good about what you do, it's like Alex Hormozy said, make a list of the 5 things you really want to do and throw the bottom 4 away. Do one thing. He talks about having a friend with 4 different businesses, a gym, a vitamin shop, and some other stuff. And he's like, why don't you just stick with one and build that?
Yeah.
And he mentioned if you talk to some, there were these billionaire women talking to, the richest people in the world, and they have one business. It's not this big, multi thing. And so,
Yeah. A man of many hats is never successful at one of anything. So it's always
yeah,
good.
yeah, jack of all trades is a master of none. Yeah. And so I know that if my day doesn't continue now, and I hope I stay with this until I have my vitamins, do my workout, start on my McOil notes, make sure my trading stuff is okay, because I trade daily bars, so I don't have to watch it during the day. I could do my regular job, and then I go to the next thing.
So
And I used to think before that, retirement's not just like when people say, oh, well, there's only so many margaritas and lying on the beach that you can do.
that's not true.
And exactly, exactly. And I laugh and go, you can create whatever world you want to.
Yeah.
But what I've discovered, at least for me, is if you're not fully involved and focused on your current life, you're not living for the present. And if you're going through your days wishing that, well, 2 years from now I'll retire and I'm living for this big 3 month vacation I'm going to have, you're just robbing yourself
Mm-hmm.
of
I
of 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 the moment of the day. And so, if you were to ask me if I'm rich, I'd say yeah, because it doesn't matter if it's future or now. It's how you feel. It's how you live each part of your day. And so that's my story on that.
no, that's okay.
And
No, you did good. I was gonna ask you a couple questions here. See if I can remember a few of them. You were talking about how you were a day trader. Do you know anything about trade bots?
yeah, I would stay away from them. I've bumped into, I think, two people that worked for companies. They were bragging they were making about 20% a month of their account
Mm-hmm.
with bots. I know some companies that started in the early 80s, but AI, there's some people trading with AI now. And, I watch a lot of trading videos so I can laugh. I always like, see, I love sales. I'm an NLP. If you're familiar with what Tony Robbins, especially, he became an NLP practitioner. Well, I became a practitioner and then a master practitioner, and I love taking apart, what people say, and it cracks me up how these people think they're telling you the holy grail of trading.
I can't
Trading
say it's the holy grail. It's a lazy way of doing it.
But no,
It
if
might be effective with Bitcoin, but I can't say that it'll be effective with actual stock.
it's but then it's not. It's you're lucky because Bitcoin keeps going up. I own Dogecoin, and not a whole lot, and I probably made about $50 out of $300.
I did that.
One sixth or something. I almost start taking it off. I mean, obviously, if you bought Bitcoin at 30 something dollars and now it's like 68, 69.
It was at 73,000 last month, and it's going
Okay.
down because of the holiday. So it's around 68 or 68,000 right now. By the
Yeah,
end of
yeah,
December, it'll be about 62,000.
yeah. But see, I'm a technical trader, so the fact that Bitcoin is Bitcoin doesn't mean much to me.
Nope, doesn't.
I, I'm a chartist, if that, and I could day trade. Technically, some trades might last a day, but I look at daily bars. So to answer your question on bots, um, no, a lot of the earlier bots, they were just programming normal technical analysis.
Right.
I used to think or swim, and I never learned their script language. I once paid someone to put my formula into the script so it would show up on the
Yeah.
on the charts.
I've tried Pionex once doing trading on Bitcoin, and I turned $250. I gained an extra, I think, $30 off of that inside of
Yeah,
3 weeks.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I took all the money back out. But I mean, if I would have put in like 20 grand, I probably would have walked away with like $3,000 off of that. But I didn't have
Yeah,
20 grand.
you can't think like that. I mean, I
Oh,
could write a book on trading and it'd probably be a good seller
of course.
because I have a better library in this room on
Mhm.
trading than you would find in a bookstore.
Oh, do you have this book? I got it from uh Brian Owens. I don't know if you can see it. It's
No, yeah, I can't see.
very back. How to
What's
Retire
it,
on Dividends is a book from Brian Owens and Tom Jacobs. They were talking about
what's it
stock trading.
called?
How to Retire on Dividends.
Oh, no, that's just a finance book. I'm talking about a solid trading book,
Oh,
like on Japanese candles. I have a whole book on Japanese, a textbook on Japanese. I have textbooks on trading options. I have, oh geez,
that's a
I
whole
have,
nother. I'm gonna have to bring you back. We're gonna have to.
yeah, I got
that
textbooks that were 40. I have courses I paid hundreds. There's a day trader guy with reddish hair. I paid him $750 for his day trading manual. I've got it. I've got it all. I that's what I was trying to say before. Um, Trading is up here.
Yep.
There's nothing once you learn how to trade. It's like anything else, and that's what I figured out with my McOil stuff. It's like, what do you want out of it?
So I got somebody asking, what about investing in coins that's from a foreign country? Your position is still pretty much the same. That if it's got good history, then it's worth trading. But if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Well, no, I'm a technical trader. Like if you mentioned, I would look at currencies. I could pull up.
Currency value or the currency
Yeah,
exchange.
I'll pull up a chart now. You could still see me,
I can still see you.
and you don't see my screen, do you?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I,
Well, I'm
I would
gonna
I
like
would definitely warn you if that happens.
good. So like I'm clicking on crude oil right now.
Okay.
And I've got my indicators on it, and it looks like it's going down. But if I get a down signal on crude oil, I'll sell a crude oil stock that meets my technical points.
That makes sense.
Okay. So I'll say, oh, good, for the next whatever few days or so, crude oil's going, like recently, gold. I caught the last up leg in gold. I got out early because I was scared. I'm only recently at this point because I was an idiot before in trading. I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, we
Um,
all make mistakes.
yeah, yeah. No, I suffered the same mistake for decades. I'll tell you what it is. Some trading psychologist said there's 4 or 5 things that everybody falls into, and I was number 4. I didn't know that before I read that. And what it is you always think there's a better system. You try to do something and it doesn't work. And then you think it's you. Go, oh, well, what's wrong with that? And somebody else comes along, or you read in a book, there's another system. Oh, well, let me try that system. That looks better. Oh,
Oh,
that one has an extra indicator. And that indicator is going to keep me out of trouble. And you start building up in your mind that you have to find the right way. Somebody's got the answer. And you buy a course. And you right now, like I didn't have this years ago, but you got all these videos online for free about trading. But you listen to different people and you take their courses. I recently, a couple of years ago, there was a guy that was well known, and he was selling options course, and I jumped in with that, and I said to myself, "Wait a minute, this is not for me."
Yeah.
You have to. It's like everything else in life. It just blends together for me now. It's all focus. If you say to yourself, I want to be successful trading. What does successful trading mean? It means I make X number of dollars a year so I can support myself and I don't have to do anything else. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you want for your life?
That depends. Do you want to keep trading for your life, or do you want your money to make money without you having to put effort in it?
Oh, but trading, once you do it right, barely takes much effort. It's fun, actually.
I noticed that. I think the same. You know, I've tried trade bots, and I know that I can throw a little bit of money in certain types of trade bots and throw me back a little bit of
Don't
change.
do
It
that.
doesn't it's not something I'm not saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go do this. No, I have a TD Ameritrade account where I was actually over there trading stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I want to do those options. And I like doing the cover calls, betting against the market. I like doing the uncovered puts. I like being able to do some naked
Well, if
trading.
it,
I like it.
yeah, if you're doing covered calls, that's different. I had a client
No,
that did it.
I like doing uncovered calls and uncovered puts, but
Oh,
it's harder to get
okay.
into. It's harder
So
to get
you'll
into because you
sell
got to have
puts.
experience in there, as opposed to just running in there with a stock you own and then putting it up for sale, knowing that nobody's going to have to buy it. You know, it's a certain level of knowledge that you have where you're watching the market, you're watching the trends, you're watching what's going on in the news. When you're not watching people do stupid stuff, you're actually watching what big business does, and then look at how the one thing that I could say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of the times the people that represent the company, their actions and behavior in society can negatively impact the stock market of their business. And that's when you start seeing certain changes outside of commerce changes, where people are buying and selling because of environmental factors like COVID, that sometimes
If the move is big enough, it'll change. We
it'll
we
change.
once, I forget how long ago it was. We had a big parade, and people knew that if there was going to be parades because some spaceship landed somewhere, the stock market, they'll push the stock market up
Hmm.
just so the people in the country will be happier. There's always stuff
Environmental
that
factors.
affects. And it's, a lot of times it's not what they tell you now. I don't care what news service you have. It's gotten a lot more cutthroat now because
I You got to watch more than one news source. You can't marry to one because you're not going to get all
yeah.
the right information.
I'm gonna need to get going, so let's
Oh, I understand.
talk about.
Let's briefly before you go, because I know that I got your webinar at the bottom of the screen here. Anybody
No,
that wants
there's
to get
something I
more
want to
information,
tell for anyone that's gonna listen to this,
yeah, so I want you to go ahead and share all the
and
information
you
that
as
you got about
well.
the webinar. So you've got the floor before you
Okay.
go. Got it.
So what I discovered years ago, just by putting it together, is I have my 4-part checklist. And to this day, whenever we use it, no one I know has been audited. It's an audit proofing checklist. And it has to do with when to file, it has to do with pulling your transcripts, it has to do with actually filing an extension and sending it in a few days before the end of the extension because most returns are picked for audit. I put that in like a mini course video, and then I did these other videos and I did courses, and one was how to represent your own clients before the IRS. That was going to be the $900 one. The other ones were like a couple of $100, give or take. And I said, I want to open up more conversations with people, and let me just charge $27. They can get the whole thing, and they can have the seminar also twice a week, 4 o'clock Central, Thursdays and Saturdays. And I've had a handful of people join. They took the, I'm assuming they took the courses and the information, and they spend a little bit of time on the webinar, but there's almost nobody that goes on right now. So
if you guys want to get some more information from Joe, make sure that you look at that link at the bottom of the screen. I'm also going to put the link into the post videos when I release this again. You guys can use that link and it'll take you straight to his paid seminars where he'll be able to give you more tax information and ways to avoid being audited and file your appropriate taxes legally. And also you could potentially contact him. I have an email that you guys can utilize where you can send him an email and request his services to do your taxes for you, because tax season's coming up. And with that change that you and I both know is going to happen with the 15%, 30% thing, a lot of things are going to change about taxes after 2024. And having a CPA that knows what those changes are and how you can better do what you're supposed to do, since they're going to be doing away with local city and state tax deductions while giving you that really nifty standardized tax bracket. You got to talk to a CPA that knows what they're doing so that you guys are not making mistakes with your taxes. So I recommend you guys to take a look at his seminars if you want to do it yourself, or hire him and his agency if you want somebody to do it for you. And he's got a lot of knowledge and a lot of information to share with you guys about a lot of business, a lot of money making scenarios. I'm definitely going to have him come back up and talk to you guys about trading stocks, real stocks, not just, running around and playing with Bitcoin and bots and stuff, like really trading stocks, because, having the kind that puts out dividends is good for you versus daily trading, which is also good for you because that's long-term payouts. And I know that I didn't get a chance to talk to you about the benefits of building trust and having those automated systems set up for generational wealth. The next time I have the opportunity to get you up here, we can talk about that as well. But I wanted to make sure that you guys know that if you need more information from Joe, you guys can contact me in the community tab. You can send me messages after the show. I'll send you guys all of the information that you need to get in touch with Joe so that he can give you more information about your tax situation. Go ahead. You can continue, Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, well, something I want to say that a lot of people, if you take advice from these national tax companies or a lot of people on the web, people that are part of Reddit or some other social media, be very careful. Even a lot of accountants make mistakes. You get a letter from the IRS, don't contact the IRS right away. If you get a letter from the IRS and you're scared, you need to find out your overall situation, what they have on you. See, it's all accessible. This way, you're going into the battle fully armed. You know what they have, like attorneys do. The other opposing attorney has to give them, the information they have. Same thing here. They have to give you your transcripts, tell you where your situation on your returns, how much money they think you owe them, and then you could put together your response first before they're contacted. And I've done that for decades for people at any walks. I've had attorneys that knew more than me about taxes, but they didn't understand how the IRS operates the way I do. So they hired me to take care of it. And it's not expensive. I've kept my rates very low, actually. So check out the website. And Stephanie, you can talk to her for free, 713-774-4467. And she'll be happy to suggest what you should do. If she thinks that really nothing can be done in your situation, that it's best that you do certain things yourself, she'll tell you. She's not going to be hungry to, try to get your business if you're not going to, if there's a chance you're not going to be happy. That's the difference between a licensed CPA firm. We have a fiduciary capacity, to our clients, and we can't even look like any level of impropriety, or we get in trouble.
Right. One of the things I can tell you guys from firsthand experience is that she's very nice and very respectful and very cordial. She was really interested in getting all the information that I needed for me as quickly as possible and then relaying my information to the appropriate sources. So call didn't last very long. She was able to direct me correctly and efficiently. And I was able to get in touch with Joe so that I can get Joe here on the show. So it was
Good,
a
good.
very good scenario. So I can tell you from firsthand, if you really wanted to get services from Joe or just get advice from Stephanie, it's a great way to call. Joe's going to pass me on that contact information. I'm going to be able to give it to you guys later so that you guys can utilize it to reach out to them. And any advice that you guys need with taxes, Joe will be able to provide it for you. And then anything else that while you got Joe that you could potentially want to learn, because he's got way more knowledge than just taxes, you could always pick his brain for that as well. Because if he's anything like me, of endless vast of knowledge, you have the capabilities of just sharing the knowledge, because why put a price tag on knowledge when that's probably one of the very few renewable resources that we don't have at our disposal. It costs so
Yeah,
much to get knowledge, and common
yeah,
knowledge is not common anymore because we're not
no,
teaching the next generation anything. We're selling it to them without them knowing what it is. They're expected to pay us to find out if the knowledge is valuable.
exactly.
I believe that I should give you enough free knowledge for you to want to pay me to give you more knowledge, as opposed to me just charging you to come and learn stuff from me. You watch this podcast enough, you're going to join my membership because you're going to be like, yo, can you show me stuff on the sidelines that I didn't hear on the podcast? And I feel like Joe's kind of got the same mentality. Is if you hang around me long enough, you're going to want to know more.
Yep.
I got friends right now that I not only do I do business with, I got friends right now that ask me for business advice. They call me and ask me, "Hey, what's this? What's that? What's the other?" That's what I was doing when when you first jumped on. I was on a call. That's why I wasn't already in the show, uh, because I gotta provide them with reasonable business advice. And if I don't know the answer, I'll go look it up. I'll go call somebody and ask them and try to work things out. But people now that I've known for decades call me because they need something, not just to see how I'm doing. And what they need from me is knowledge and advice and wisdom. They don't call me because they need money. They call me because they want me to help them learn something. So I actually have a very good network because I don't necessarily have to call them for money. I just got to call them to perform an action for me. That way we are all successful with one another. And this is the kind of way that you guys can be better successful, because one of the things that you know that the top 1% don't become more successful because they're borrowing from each other. They're actually becoming more successful because they're networking with one another. They're passing information along to one another. So I don't necessarily have to buy into what you're selling. I just have to promote what you're selling to somebody who needs it. And now I've got two assets. I've got the person who's selling stuff and the person who's buying stuff. One of them's going to need something. Both of them's going to come to me. Now I've got a larger network. So it's better to, instead of being a jack of all trades of a bunch of different things, like Joe said, you want to build a business of being success, build the type of legacy where your success is the success of the people that encountered you. That way, your reputation is, if you do business with this guy, he's going to help you become successful. That's going to make more people come to you, which prevents you from having to do cold calls begging people to come to you. You'll be brushing them off your clothes because there's so many people like, hey, help me be as successful as that person over there. One thing I'm going to tell you, because I know that Joe's got to go before I let you guys disappear. One of the things that you learn about Japan, because he was talking about the candles in Japan, in Asia, the borrowing system is based off of reputation, social reputation. So you can't do business in that country if people don't like you. In America, your money talks. So nobody has to like you. You just have to put up enough money for them to do what you want them to do. In Japan, people got to like you no matter how much money you have. If nobody likes you, nobody will loan anything to you. Nobody will do business with you, and you will be blacklisted out of that country because nobody likes you. If you become a favorite in your society, start off with being a favorite in your neighborhood, start then go up to being a favorite in your city, then go up to being a favorite in your state. That is how you move up in the social ladder, not just because of the money that you make. Look at what we're dealing with right now. The election is a popularity contest. It is not about whatever policies they represent. It is a popularity contest. People are going to vote because they like the person. half, 99% of the people don't even know what they're representing. They just vote whether or not they like that person. You get into politics, you vote for the name on the docket because you like that name. You don't even know who that person is when you're voting for judges, when you're voting for Supreme Court judges. You don't look at the history of these people. You just walk up there and just check a bunch of boxes. They sound like females. I want female judges. You're checking a bunch of boxes. Their credentials have nothing to do with what you're doing, but it's a popularity contest. So if you want to be successful in life, the first thing you got to do is you got to make sure that people like you for what you do. And the best way to be liked is to be an asset to them, not kiss their butts and do what they tell you to do. It's be an asset to them. And an asset is, Joe's about to jump in, an asset is somebody that they can benefit from. What do you got to say, Joe?
Or just vote the Republican ticket all the way down.
Look now,
you have to do that because that's what they do.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. Now, I went down that Republican ticket, and I'm gonna tell you that there was nothing there that benefits people that don't make more than $50,000 a year. I was like, bro, you are about to lose so much stuff. But if you like your guns and you have a business under your name, that is the only two things that you have to do to vote Republican. If you like your guns and you have a business under your name, whether it's a C corporation, an S corporation, or an LLC, somewhere in there benefiting more from a C corporation. But if you're the only person in the business having an LLC, you probably do a little bit more because your W-2s can be washed out with some of your LLC stuff. And Joe knows a lot about how to do that.
You mentioned that. That's the basis of entity structure in our tax planning, and there could be some huge savings.
Exactly why I said, go ahead. Go ahead.
But I'm going to leave you with something, and then I'm going. My wife is a Democrat, and she's going to vote for Kamala.
And look, my father and I are Democrats, and my father is voting Democrat, and I did not.
Do you live with him?
Yes, I do. But but I explained to him the fact because and let me explain to you what happened here. So, his position was the marijuana and the casino and a woman president. That's it. That was his motivation. Because Camila's not doing nothing for the American population because her immigration is not doing anything. You're doing more for it. She's got a good 10, but you're right, she's not. The funny thing is that she's allowing immigrants to get benefits that homeless people aren't getting in America, where homeless people are being put in prison for the same thing that the immigrants are about to do after they breach the border. I had an objection to that. The abortion thing takes away rights from men. I had a problem with that. Then she's talking about the hidden fees thing. Ma'am, if you don't touch it, you don't pay for it. There are no hidden fees there. You're over here pissed off because you're the vice president. You got on a plane, you ordered a bunch of steak and lobster, and now you're pissed off that you got to pay for stuff when you get off the plane. Nothing is free in life. If you go to the hotel, you open a mini bar, they're going to charge you for it after the fact. They tell you that before you go up there. Now you're putting it on the working class, the responsibility to tell upper class and upper middle class people, I'm sorry, there's going to be an extra cost for that, because it goes without saying that they only advertise the base model price, but they sell you the premium product. That is marketing. So you cannot tell me that just because the Cybertruck is supposed to have all of these features on it, that you're going to get all of those features on it for the inflated $125,000 when the truck was originally offered for $79,000. You are getting a regular steel body truck that does not do anything that it said it was going to do. And until it does, I'm not buying it because it's a waste of money. Because it doesn't.
Bulletproof.
It is bulletproof, but the windows are not bulletproof. The windows are regular windows, and those windows will shatter if you don't wash it right. It'll just crack in the sunlight if you don't wash it right. It's not worth it right now.
What a waste.
Yeah, tell me about it. And the frame bends if you put too much weight in the back of the truck, so you have metal damage on the frames, and you're paying an extra $25,000 just so that they can put a little emblem on the side of the truck that says Foundation Series. So you're paying $125,000 for a truck that's currently valued at $100,000 just so that you could be the first person to get it. But
they're ugly anyway. There's a guy that drives part of the way that I do going home from work. So I'll see that Cybertruck every now and then.
It doesn't have the 500 miles on it.
I can't even see the windows.
It doesn't have, well, you're not going to see it from the back because there's supposed to be a metal vault in the back of it with solar panels on it. They haven't put the solar panels on it yet, and
Oh, okay.
it's supposed to be self-driving. They didn't put that software in it yet, but they
Huh.
made the self-driving software in that car that costs $30,000 that drives itself. That software is supposed to go into the Cybertruck, and the
Okay.
tri-motor only goes 300 miles. It's supposed to have a 500-mile tri-motor, and they don't have the 500-mile tri-motor. So everything they advertised in the demo release is not in the current $125,000 truck. In
Oh,
2 to 4 years,
huh.
all of that stuff might be in the second generation of the $100,000 truck, but right now it's not worth it. So the 2.5 million
Okay.
people on the reserve list, that means that you're not going to be able to buy that truck unless it's used from anywhere, because they have a waiting list of 2.5 million people, but only 5 or 6,000 people a year are getting the truck because that's how many they're producing right now from the massive Gigatech thing in Texas. It's 5 to 6,000 trucks a
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
You're
All
not
that,
going to see one in your lifetime.
all that stuff is crazy. All that
But
stuff.
long story short was, his mentality was, I want to be able to smoke my weed and not get in trouble for it. I want to be able to go to casinos without having to worry about issues with long commuting, and I want to see a woman in the White House.
Oh,
And I'm
your
like,
dad.
that makes no sense. Yeah, him. Yeah, and I'm like, that makes no sense because she's taking away rights that we're supposed to have. They're already too strict on gun
Exactly.
laws. They're not doing anything. And I told him, I said, look, the other guy isn't doing that much for the average person either. He is doing good for people who have business savvy. And I said, that's why I said, if you want your guns and you want to, you have some kind of business under your belt, go Republican, because if you are a W-2 worker, he's not benefiting you either. If for any of
That's
those
not
people,
true.
he's
That's
not.
what the standard deduction got at the Tax Cuts and Job Act. The standard deduction got huge.
It is.
Plus,
It is. It
huh?
is huge. It is huge. But when I'm talking about those individuals that are on Medicaid and Medicare, you're going to have to start paying for that when he privatizes that. I'm talking about those people that are on welfare that are going to have a harder time getting it, unless you are disabled, because even when Bill Clinton was in office, they were
Yeah.
forcing
See,
everybody to get jobs.
you know a lot more about that
It,
than
it was a
I do. I mean, when
950-page
Obama
document.
did his Obamacare, my sister got on the phone and she said, "What's this guy? This guy is crazy.
That's garbage.
My insurance went up."
Okay, so the Obamacare was done because they did a stupid act and decided to make it financially illegal to not have health insurance, and people
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, we have to do those extra forms. We do a
So
lot of back years too.
so people can't afford to get health insurance. So he's like, "Oh,
No,
all right, now we're going to do reduced policies where you can still afford to pay your health coverage." But bro, if it's a 60-40 where I've got to pay 60 and the insurance company's paying 40 and I still got to give you $60 a month for it, and I can only afford to do it 2 or 3 times in 10 years because I don't have enough money because I'm living at a 99% income rate, debt to income, like I can't even go to the doctor because the doctor visit after I finish paying for my insurance, my doctor visit costs too much dang money. Obamacare was
so
stupid.
we couldn't wait till we were 65 to get on Medicare. We
Yeah, but
still
but
we still pay each month, but the premiums are
but that
down like crazy.
but that's what I was saying, because Trump is about to privatize Medicaid and Medicare is not free. When it becomes privatized, the government's not paying for it anymore. You're going to be paying up to $750 a month for that Medicaid and Medicare,
Yeah,
for
we'll
that
see,
for
but
the HSP.
he might have a way to put more money in our pockets
What do you,
to
that
make up
that
for it.
that's one of the reasons why I said he's a good businessman, because while he's going to make you earn your privileges in this country, you're not going to get a free handout. The fact is that
Exactly.
since Bill Clinton, this is the first person that has put money back into your pocket with a stimulus check. So because
Those were Trump's checks.
those,
Well, I mean, Biden, got him
I
going, but
no no no
Trump
no
put
no no
his
no no
name
no 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 no
on
no
them.
no, 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 no. When the originally when the COVID happened and everybody was losing their jobs and not having enough money to survive,
Right.
during Donald Trump's position. See, look, I'm not even going to sit here and say I'm against Trump or I'm against Camilla. I'm just saying I know about their history and their policies. I did my research, but Donald Trump, when he did the tariffs took away the deficit. So all that trading taxes that is done that makes your products cost more money is the reason why the tariffs are low, which is why our debt is low, which is why we have more money in our company, in our economy. For Trump to say, hey, certain quantities of people can get certain quantities of money back on these stimulus checks. These stimulus checks rollout have been happening in since 2020, I do believe 2020,
Yeah,
2021, been rolling out.
2020.
But that was from, you got to understand, this is one of the reasons why I say a lot of the times the presidents are figureheads, because an executive order, you say Trump put his name on it, the executive order was signed back then, and executive
Right,
orders are as far as 25 years. So the next president that takes over can reap the rewards and the
right,
praise of what
right,
happened. But the last
right.
president signed that order. So Trump signed that order for the stimulus checks to come out. Biden gets to say, hey, because of me, but it wasn't because of him. Trump was the one who signed that order. And that's the reason why the checks started rolling out. And for 25 years, as long as the situation calls for it, that executive order is going to allow those stimulus checks to come out. But when I said
Okay.
that he in office would definitely do something different, because outside of that you're going to have to pay for Medicare, he's going to do something different that's going to allow the elderly that is living off of their Social Security, disability, and their veterans benefits to have potentially some type of exemption where they won't have to pay. But until he puts that in action, what you have to know is that Medicaid is going to be privatized. And unless he offers a subsidy for that privatized income, your Social Security, disability is going to be paying for your $750 for your Medicaid and your Medicare.
Well,
That
he
based on,
did say he was going to make Social Security not taxable.
which actually could help you out.
Right, right, right.
So
Exactly.
there's benefits there somewhere. So I'm not saying that he's a bad
Right,
man. I'm not saying, I have never said that. I always come from a uniform perspective, but I also analyze both halves. But I also think about the college students, because this was 950 pages. I know you got to go, so I'm gonna try to keep it short. It was
right.
they had
The defender of man can talk all night, can he?
they have the well. No, I got stuff to do too, just like you. I just know that you touched on
I'm
some
gonna be
points on our
going.
way out the door, and I was like, hold on, you're great, but I just want to hit this real quick. Uh, uh,
Okay.
he said that he was gonna stop with the debt relief that you're having from your student loans. I was like, I don't know about that. That's in Project 2025. I don't know if that's a good idea, but I got student loans that are deferred for life, so I don't really care. But again, they're not allowing you to get extra loans for second tier education, so you can't go back to college and get a master's or a PhD using financial aid. You're gonna have to find another way, because they used to have that. When he puts a stop to that, you get your bachelor's degree with financial assistance, but that's it. You're gonna have to find another way, privatize loans and stuff to that effect. Again, he did
Yeah.
say, he said, yeah, you might not have that ability, but you're not going to be stuck with all of this unnecessary debt either. So it does pay off, because why get 2 or 3 or 4 degrees and now you got $500,000 worth of student debt that you can't pay off, that the government now has to subsidize and give you some kind of 60-40 deduction so that you can pay off some of it, where the government is still in debt. I completely understand why he's doing it. I'm not objecting to the fact that he's doing it. I'm just saying you're not benefiting.
I really don't know, because there's so many other factors. It's like college tuition has gotten out of hand like crazy.
Tell me about it. They're like
At
$8,000 they
CPA,
give you every 6 months, every
it,
3 months.
I mean, I paid for my son to go to U of H. It was 20 grand, which is not that bad, but I didn't pay for all 4 years because he lived here. I mean, I paid for the school, but I paid for room and board for 2 years, and it wasn't too bad. But I've got nephews that went to these straight Jesuit schools and stuff, and my brother-in-law was paying like 40 grand a piece. They're only
Yep,
like a year apart, so it's like
yep,
80 grand in a year. It was like,
yep.
and that's not even a Ivy League kind of school, which is
That's
a lot
basic college.
more.
But
And
it's privatized though. It's not the community colleges that don't have as
right,
much fees.
and the thing too is, some woman came to my office last year with a tax problem. She was a gender studies teacher,
Oh,
and I
that's
was kind of,
35,000 a year.
yeah, it was kind of right. He was broke. She couldn't afford for me. We did a $300 consultation. She couldn't afford to hire me. She took a mother with her because she was hoping if the fees were pretty low, her mother would lend her the money. It's ridiculous, and people are starting schools. I don't know if what's his name, Vivaswamy or
Uh-huh.
somebody's starting a school. That they're not going to charge that much. When I went to that Joe Dispenza thing, I bumped into a girl that was a graduate student in Columbia in Manhattan, and man, those riots really, it's like you paid all that money and they weren't giving refunds.
Nope.
People couldn't go to class. Jews were terrorized.
Yep.
Um, and they just, and then you got people telling the school what to do and who to stand behind. I think they just screwed up the education system in this
Well,
country.
he did say that he was going to dismantle the education system. So if you give him enough time, he's probably going to put the other pieces together. But when you look at the original platform that they're talking about, the first few steps, you got to think about what financial status that you are in when you decide to vote. Because you're not trying to vote for what if.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a
That's what I'm
minute.
talking about.
Okay,
Let's say jump in now.
you vote Republican because they're trying to destroy this country. You got to get a hold of Alex Jones's latest book.
Say that again. Say that again because you froze up. You
Oh,
vote Republican because why?
I said the left is trying to destroy this country.
Okay.
Okay, if you get a hold of Alex Jones's latest book, he's got references in there that go to UN policies and things. That's how I learned that the UN, they're trying to put together a world medical governing body so that the next time they sick COVID on us, that the United States doesn't get to independently decide what the United States does. They're trying to turn us into a unitarian, one party state. You
I've been
and
concerned about the police state portion of things.
I'm sorry.
I've been worried about the police state portion of things.
Well, yeah, that's all part of it too. If you look at the tapes from January 6th, that whole thing was a setup. There were over 200 FBI assets in the crowd. I've watched videos of policemen at the Capitol building talking to each other. Hey, let's throw this tear gas can over, and we'll excite the crowd more. That
Yep.
the whole thing, and they didn't want to. They hid the tapes at first because they were all waved in.
Mhm.
They had a. I don't know if you saw the interview. This French reporter was talking to one of the Capitol Police, and he said, "Oh yeah, half of us called in sick." The
Yeah.
whole yeah,
You just
and
gotta know that anything that was not organized, you would not have that many people go into an area where if you trespass, you get shot, and nobody got shot. You just know that had to be a setup.
well, they were waving them in.
Like,
They were waving, and I heard the testimony of that Capitol police officer who said they hung him out to dry. He was on the phone. We got to cover this area. They're coming in over here,
right.
and nobody gave him the orders to do anything. No, they're purposely causing chaos, and you got other countries doing that too. In England, you may have heard the story. This one woman was standing across the street from an abortion clinic
Oh yeah.
and praying and not making any trouble or anything, and they arrested her.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they arrested. There was a priest or a minister that went to a school, and they had this drag queen stuff,
Yep.
and they wound up arresting him. And this is all done. The border being opened, and there's fentanyl labs in California that are helping the Chinese and distribute to Mexico, and Mayorkas didn't even want to admit that there were colored bands, that wristbands on the floor that said how much they owe to the cartels. You don't put people's lives in danger like this, um, other than for greed and trying to do a coup.
Yeah.
Look at what they did to Tulsi Gabbard. When she got done, when she was in the primary with Kamala and whoever else was there, when she finished, they kicked her off of social media that
Oh yeah.
same that same night. Yeah, yeah.
It's
Um,
hard. It's hard out here.
and the way they went after Rudy Giuliani, in New York, they're dragging him under the mud. They're still going after him, and Steve Bannon, and they went after everybody connected with Trump. That they're what do they call that? What they did with the DOJ's office? They there's a word for that. But it's a takeover.
It
It,
is.
forget policy.
Yes.
It's do you want us taking over the Chinese? I mean, the Chinese own so much land in this country.
I pointed
They
that out. They don't need to take us over with war. They could just buy us out because we're for sale.
Oh, absolutely.
Who do you think takes care of our deficit when we have that $300 trillion deficit? China buys
Japan.
that. China and
Japan.
Japan buy that. That's why everything that you have in your house is primarily made in Taiwan, because who do you think
Yep.
has all of the authority to ship stuff over?
Why do you think gold's going up? Chinese have been buying gold for several years now. The-
So
the-
and the American dollar is backed by faith, not by gold anymore. We are
yeah,
not protecting
Nixon.
ourselves from
Yeah.
anything. So I could say that change is needed. A lot of change is needed. But with notice between the two of us, so much knowledge and history passed by, and there is not one discussion about whether or not individual political parties have great policies. It's just, look, all of the corruption behind this doesn't benefit anybody, and that
Oh, oh.
there's going to be a
I'll,
lot of change.
I'll give you my solution real quickly. I used to watch these old Twilight Zone and Outer Limits and
Yep,
things
me
like
too.
that, and they always had councils. Why can't we work together and pick the 50 best people to sit on the council to lead the country?
Well,
You know?
the way the Constitution originally made this, we were supposed to have a different Congress, a different group of 500 plus people in Congress every 2 years. Nobody was supposed to have a 20-year career in Congress.
Oh, okay.
Nobody goes though.
Yeah,
So
tell
what
that to
happens is
Maxine Waters.
the 500 seats of Congress are people just moving around in the same room. Somebody
Yeah,
be
oh,
on the left,
yeah.
center, center,
Oh,
but the
yeah.
fact is, you're in that seat for 2 years, and then you move to another seat for 2 years, and then that keeps happening for 20 years, and then you retire and you get a pension for the years of service that you did. But really and truly, like jury duty, we are supposed to have 500 different people every 2 years in our Congress, but
Wow.
nobody applies themselves. So the reason
Wow.
why there are so many agendas that are able to be manifested is because the rest of the 355 million people are on autopilot and could care less. And the only time that they really vote is when one person says, hey, that job for the leader of the country, I want that job. But every 2 years we're supposed to vote. Actually, every year we're supposed to vote, but every 2 years we're supposed to vote for Congress. We're supposed to be voting for Supreme Court judges, local state judges, the sheriffs in our towns, the dean and the principals of our school, the school board, all of that stuff. We're supposed to be voting for that. The roads in our streets. When we complain about like Florida's got construction that's like 20 years in the making for one pothole, we're supposed to be voting on that stuff, and we're not. And because we turn a blind eye to everything that's supposed to happen in this country and then complain when things go south, like the fact is that we allowed it to happen. It took 99% of the people to not do something in order for us to complain about something needs to get done. And
Right.
that's why I say that the one person at the top of the ladder can't be responsible for everything that went wrong, because it took the entire country to fail the country.
Oh
Not
yeah.
one
Well,
person.
that's the bad philosophy. If you don't fix anything unless it's broken.
Yeah, yeah. I hate that philosophy. People who say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm like, no, 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 no.
No, no.
Change is
And
always
Trump's not
needed.
like that either.
You should be looking for a more efficient way to do things. I can't say that there's always going
Absolutely.
to be a better way, but you're supposed to be looking for a more efficient way, and you're not supposed to stick to tradition, because the way things used to be might have been good back in the day, but the way things have changed, we need to find a way that is more effective for us today. That's one of the reasons why I tell
Yeah, but
everybody to grab a
don't
book today.
apply that to the Constitution, though.
Well, the Constitution is
Because the
supposed to be
country was built on the
the
Constitution.
Constitution is supposed to be a finite set of rules and instructions that outlines the way we're supposed
Exactly.
to interact between one another. But the Constitution doesn't need to be changed in order for us to be more accountable for our
There
own
you go.
individual decisions and our actions. That
Exactly.
and
Good.
that's one of the reasons why I stand on first person
Exactly.
accountability, and I stand on uniformity with that first person accountability, because there is no reason to modify basic laws for us to have mutual respect for one another and treat people the way we want to be treated. But at the same time, you have to earn your keep, and you can't get rich off the back of somebody else's effort if you're not willing to put in that effort to make enough money to hire somebody to do the work for you. So
Yeah.
so
Well,
it, it
I'm sure you find those in the Bible. I don't read the Bible much, but
I don't either. It's
okay.
there's a I've read it enough to know what's going on there, but I also understand that even the moral and ethical code that is in the Bible is still going to lead you down the same path. Is that you are supposed to treat people the way you want people to treat you.
Absolutely.
You're gonna see it in the Quran. You're gonna see it in all of the different religious
Absolutely.
books across the world.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
is also going to lead to, you can't blame other people for your failure. You failed because you failed. You failed because you either did something you wasn't supposed to do, or you allowed something to happen that you knew was going to have a negative impact on you, and you failed to stop it. And that's called negligence. And you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to allow bad things to happen around you if you can stop it. And
Right.
and uh,
Right.
uh, uh,
You got to be taught though, because these things you're talking about, it's no coincidence that it's the best thing for our mental health. It's the best thing for our physical health. Matter's created from energy.
yeah,
We create the world around us, and if you don't have those ideals, you have chaos. You have
yep,
a lot of the work that I did with the S training and Course in Miracles. You might be familiar with the Course in Miracles. You find that in religious bookstores. Are you familiar with that?
a little bit, but I mean,
Oh,
I
I did the whole course.
I didn't take the course. That's why I say I'm familiar with it a little bit.
Okay.
I have tip of the iceberg knowledge, but I also do a lot of digging on a lot of research on a lot of things. So there's a lot of times where I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but then after I sign off on a podcast, I'm gonna be like, I know exactly what Joe was talking about.
Yeah. Well, the missing piece that I did when I did Joe Dispenza's seminars is how it's all connected, energy wise. Like even our thoughts. He's put out some good books, um, and he's got a course. Well, he's got several courses, but the prerequisite course uh, to the weekend. You can't go on that week long thing unless you take the prerequisite course.
Right.
It teaches you. the connections of neurons and all kinds of things that your thoughts. It's like one of the things that I had to learn is that if I have bad thoughts toward somebody, active bad thoughts, that hurts me,
Mhm. Yes.
you know,
Doesn't hurt
and
them.
no, it hurts me, even in a minor sense. Like someone might say, "Oh, well, yeah, I know you don't take revenge on somebody," or like if this guy Willie 2 years ago owes you $10, and every time you see him, you go, "Where's my $10?" and you start chasing him, and you interrupt what you're doing. I think
Yeah.
that was in a movie too. I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, where the guy pointed it out. I think it was Robert De Niro that pointed it out. It's like, why don't you just let the guy go for the $10? But this goes way beyond that. This is the things you tell yourself. And even if you say to yourself, "Oh man, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that?" You're planting in your brain that at some level you think you're an idiot.
Yes.
Some of the most innocent ways we talk to ourselves can be damaging.
Yes.
Yeah, and I had to learn that myself because a lot of people in New York City when I was growing up, rank outs were very common. We would call ourselves, all kinds of names,
Mhm.
and
I have been, and I've noticed that in the next generation where it is self degradation, and I noticed that you have a lot of that in the rap music and everything like that, and even myself when I grew up with that type of music, I now in my older years say, man, what we're listening to is not
oh
good
yeah,
for
NWA with Easy E
you.
and
And
you know fuck
yeah,
the police.
hey, it's a great song, but with reality rap back in the day, they used to, oh, we lost Joe for a moment there. Uh, hold on a second. I'm gonna let Joe know we lost him. Uh, he'll jump back in. One of the things that we noticed is that back in the day with reality rap, we had individuals that would uh talk about the way things used to be and how problems were uh back in the day, and there's a lot of cursing involved, but uh the let me just a second. I'm trying to find out what happened to Joe. He lost signal here. But the way things were, um, people still learned from that. People still improved and they grew from that. One of the concerns that I had, there he is. All right, so
Yeah,
I noticed that disconnect just happened. What I was saying was,
yeah, that was me. I have this mouse that it's a gaming mouse. It's really good, but if I accidentally hit something with it, it destroys whatever I got on the screen.
yeah, that's why my hands are way over here, so I don't do too much touching stuff. But what I was saying was with the reality rap back in the day with NWA, they were while they were cussing on the rap song, they were talking about how things needed to change and how things were bad in society. It was delivering a message. It wasn't just a bunch of
Oh
people
yeah,
cursing on the
oh
music.
yeah,
But
yeah.
today's music in 2024, you got females calling themselves bad bees. You got everybody calling each other the
Oh,
N
what's her
word,
name?
and
Yeah, Sexy Red.
yeah, Sexy Red, Cardi B, all these women that, and they're self-degradating themselves. You don't want me to call you that, but you will call yourself that while you're singing a song. And I say to myself, even with whether it's derogatory towards women or derogatory towards a specific gender or group of people or race or whatever, if you do not want somebody else to identify you that way, you should not identify yourself that way. You
Yeah,
should not
you're
have.
good about that. I wish I would have been that strict with myself over the years because that's a good lesson.
I take a lot of this wisdom from my father. I took a lot of this wisdom from people like you, where I learned from my elders when I talk to them. That's why I'm always open minded, and I don't take offense to anything that they say, even when they tell me that I'm wrong. Because on some level, I might actually be wrong. I just have a certain way of thinking after I've put everything together. But that doesn't mean that I know all the answers. That just means that I'm able to survive in the current situation that I am in.
Yeah.
I could be the cream of the crop where I'm the best in my area, but that doesn't make me the best in the world. I strive to be the best in the world at what I do. But if I go to another area, somebody else is going to be doing it better than me. So that means I got to learn from somebody else that's better than me so that I can become better, so that I can teach other people who haven't made it to my level yet how to get better. But I tell people on a regular basis, I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, if we're listening to this stuff and we're like, oh yeah, MF for this, MF for that. Oh, I'm a bad B and this, that. And it's like, bro, if you don't want somebody else to walk up to you and call you that word, you shouldn't be identifying yourself as that. I wouldn't want my child to be identifying herself like that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want.
Candace Owens talks a lot about that.
So, I'm
I
not for
don't know if you
censorship
knew.
because I believe that they should have the freedom to say what they want to say. But I believe that the rest of us should have self respect and say, hey, I might be able to bump that jam in my car, but I'm not going to sing those lyrics where I'm putting that thought in my head that I'm going to use a derogatory term to myself, because that actually puts negative vibe in me that I'm going to actually start behaving. And you come to think about it, just marinate on this for a second. The type of individual that listens to derogatory stuff that self degrades in themselves are the same type of individuals that act inappropriately in public and embarrass themselves, and they feel like they should do that. But
Well,
one of the things
yeah,
that I've learned,
they're trying to relate to a different crowd, though.
and
They're
and,
not.
that, and that's the problem, because if you're trying to be successful in life and you're trying to relate to a negative crowd by emulating negative behavior, and then you're going to take yourself out of that negative environment and put you into a positive environment where people have already seen you behave
Oh
negatively like
yeah,
a dog under
you
the tree.
can't at that point. You can't do that.
You're burning bridges before you get there, because the
That
person that
can.
saw you disrespecting yourself and disrespecting other people met you before you met that person. And now you're in a job interview, and that person saw you in that YouTube video where you were dancing upside down, shaking your behind. You're not going to get the job.
That's right. That was not an issue in my generation, but yes, yes,
And
yes.
nowadays, you got
When
kids, they're
somebody
showing
applies for a job, I look them up online.
you look them up, and you can put their name online. You can find their criminal history sometimes. You can
Oh,
find their
absolutely.
arrest
Yeah,
record on
yeah.
time. It's free public knowledge in most
Yeah.
situations, especially
And
if it's not recently happened.
I've seen people on their Facebook that made me say no and not even call them after their application looked okay,
Yep.
their resume. But when I see what they were doing on their Facebook, I said, nah, forget them.
Yep, yep, and I'm gonna tell you, and I can say in all honesty, before you got on the show today, you asked me for my full name. So if you did a Google search for me, you didn't find anything negative before you jumped up on the
Oh,
podcast.
I didn't do a search. I just wanted to know who you were, who
Oh
I
no,
was
but
dealing
my point is that if you stood by before I get on this podcast, let me find out who this person is. If you would have did a search, nothing negative would have showed up. And the fact is that my reputation as a person is based off of not just the image that I put up on social media. It is my image and my behavior in my social atmosphere. So if I want to be successful, I cannot behave negatively even when I'm off the clock, even when I'm not handling business, even when I'm not actually effectively representing my company. I am still representing my company, because if I do something unethical and then I get arrested for that, or have
Absolutely.
somebody make a bad review about me on that, the
Absolutely.
next time I go to do business, aren't you that guy that did that unethical behavior? I don't do business with
Yep.
people like that, and that will sabotage my
Yep.
success going forward. So when I
Yep.
when I tell people, hey, you're listening to this music, I'm not saying don't listen to the music, but when you internalize that negative vocabulary as self-identifiers, because that's how the music personifies that
Yep.
music. That music doesn't personify you, you personify you using that music. That's
Yep.
when you start limiting yourself, self-fulfilling prophecies of failure, because you are deliberately, indirectly, accidentally, unintentionally setting yourself up for failure. You believe that you can
Subconsciously. Yes.
subconsciously, and you believe that this is cool, this is the way to be as children. And the children still aren't taught to this day that you can make a bad decision at 14 years old and negatively impact your future at 28.
Yeah.
Kids, they don't know that.
Yeah.
But at 28,
Yeah.
you were hanging out with the wrong friend. You got involved in the wrong thing. The police got involved. You worked it out with the judge, but it's on your record now. Somebody runs your name in the background. That shows up. Now
Oh
you
yeah,
can't be a CIA agent. Now you can't be a doctor. It,
people don't think anymore.
and
It's crazy. The things people do now just for attention messes up their life. All those stop oil people,
yep,
and you don't even need to be part of a group.
yeah. You know
People do things for pranks. Well,
the
that guy that got shot, those
oh
those two kids that, yeah,
okay, and I love that you brought that up. The people who prank people don't
yeah,
know that you're pranking the wrong one and you can
yep,
get shot. And
yep,
it's Halloween right now, so it's good that you brought that up because there are going to be a lot of people that's going to be jumping out in that clown costume with that sledgehammer, thinking that they can run up on folks and scare them,
yep.
thinking that they're going to run. And you got too many people out here with this constitutional carry where you're going to come around the corner with a sledgehammer walking up on them, and they're going to put you three in the chest, and that is legal because their life was reasonably deemed as threatened because there was an unknown assailant with a sledgehammer heading in their direction. And
Especially older people like me that know you can't fight as good as when you were younger, so you're going to use a weapon.
but they're the one of the things that they're also not thinking though is what about your health? People like you who have been through a lot in your life, your health isn't all the way up there. If they scare you enough, you could have a heart attack or a stroke, and then they would be responsible for your life loss. They're not paying attention to the
Yep,
mistakes that they're making before they make it. They
yep.
think, oh, this will get me a lot of views on social media. But if you scare the wrong person, you could either hurt or kill them, or they could hurt or kill you. And it is not smart for you to behave
Well,
like that in an unstructured location.
I was just going to say you need a father to tell you that. And then I just thought of what you've been telling me about all the stuff your dad had been teaching you.
And I learned a lot over the years.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot,
yeah.
and and
And
and
that's what's missing from a lot of people.
and the interesting part, the other half, that guy still got charged for shooting him. Even though he didn't get an attempted murder charge because it was self-defense, but he did get
Okay.
a charge for discharging a firearm in a residential location,
Yeah,
overpopulated area. So
yeah, the other
the
hurt.
fact is that while he shot the guy, he probably would have did better pointing the gun at the guy and causing the guy to leave the location because the guy recognized the gun, because the discharging of the firearm is what got him in trouble, not the fact that he defended himself. I feel like he should have been able to shoot the guy and not get any time. I think they ended up putting him on probation for it instead of putting him in jail
Okay.
for it, but he still got a criminal charge for it. So he's not necessarily sitting in jail because he shot the guy, but he does have a negative impact on his record because he shot the guy. And that's going to negatively
Okay.
impact him going forward because now he's got a felony on his record, which is going to interfere with his ability to buy housing, especially in HOA places, because they don't allow people with criminal records inside of 3 to 5 years to move into their location. That's going to interfere with employment because if you got a felony on your record, some people won't hire you. It'll interfere with getting promotions in employment because
Yeah,
some companies
I
like
just
that.
think a lot of these people have just given up and
But
they
he could get it
figure
expunged if he
they'll make money online and that's it.
Well, yeah, because I mean that's the reason why OnlyFans makes so much money because they're gonna try to make money online. I mean I make money online, but I'm trying to teach people stuff. and when
Yeah,
I and when I'm not doing this, I'm an online teacher. So I'm not just here on a live podcast. After this live podcast, I actually have. That's why I tell you I'm not dedicated to this all day every day. I actually teach people kindergarten through second year college every grade because I have a degree in microbiology, communication and health, and computer technology. So I don't hold nothing back neither. But with relaying all of this information from stuff that I've learned either from personal experience,
microbiology. That's
yeah,
that's
and
pretty cool. You know, I never took biology because I went straight into. I had 13 periods a week of chem lab. I went straight into chemical engineering in
one
high
of
school.
the
Yeah.
funny thing was I didn't get microbiology because I wanted microbiology. I got microbiology because my buddy got a biology degree and I wanted to be better than him. So I got a microbiology. So I took 100
Mm,
credits more than him just to say that I'm smarter.
mm. I'm glad you only sleep 4 hours because I don't know how you could manage all the things you do.
The only reason why I'm able to manage all of the things that I do is because of time management and all of the knowledge that I've obtained over the decades with going to college, learning from people like you and learning from people like my father and learning from people in my neighborhood. And then I just try to find a balance with the knowledge that I have and then the distribution of that knowledge because I don't like to waste people's time. But it is still overwhelming. I do put in 14 to 18 hours a day worth of work, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm only
Yeah.
off on Thursday during the day between
Yeah.
like 8 a.m. and like 4 or 5 p.m. And outside of that, I'm working. But the fact is that I am my own boss, and I have a partner, and he is almost his own boss. He told me he wanted to
Okay.
be a millionaire, but he's not listening to me, and I can't help him. So now he's working. He's working 2 jobs because when I told him, hey, you could co-host this show with me because we were supposed to be doing this together and we could both be successful.
Yeah.
I'm being paid to sit in a chair and talk on a computer, and he's working for a tech company and driving an Uber.
When they say something about a wine, when a fine wine, when in its own time, you gotta. It's one of the things that was really hard for me to learn. People learn their lessons when they learn their lessons,
Yep,
not when you want them to learn their
that's
lessons.
right. And it
And you
just
can't do a damn thing about it.
nope.
Hey, look, I gotta go. I'm
I'm
gonna go
about to wrap it
have
up
to
too.
eat. It
So I
was
really
great
appreciate it.
talking to you. We'll talk again for
Oh, yes,
sure.
sir. Because
All right.
the next time I have an opportunity to bring you on, we can talk about the ideas and knowledge that you have behind option trading, because I know that that is a fantastic topic for us to get into while we shoot the breeze about everything else around it. So I really appreciate you coming to the show today, Joe. And you
Okay.
guys make sure that you guys check that link down below and some of the ones that I'm going to be putting in before and after the show. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Have a good night, Joe.
All right. Good night.
And everybody, we're going to sign out of TikTok first. Ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to ask you guys to make it make sense. So, ladies, make it make sense. And for the rest of you guys that are watching us on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter that's still on here, I really appreciate you guys coming to the show. You guys have made it worth our while to have Joe up here so that we could talk about all the many things that we're going to be talking about on the podcast today. And tomorrow we got some things that are going to be lined up, relationship topic style stuff. But we got some stuff lined up for you guys where you guys can learn some things. I'm still trying to get that relationship coach up here. So as soon as we get her up here, we're going to be able to start working her in. She's probably going to give us an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours too. But as soon as we get her in there, I'm gonna let you guys know. Just remember, like and subscribe, join the membership. Also, make sure that you pay attention to the book because we're gonna get Brett Owens up here at some point after he finishes with his son's little league game. So we're gonna be talking about money with Brett Owens. Again, thank you guys for joining us with our tax CPA Joe Montagues. And again, thank you for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between.